Okay, so today,
Okay, go ahead.
January 4th, 2024, it's our 39th meeting, reading Urantia book with Heidi. We are reading paper 111, The Adjuster and the Soul. The We are going to read section 4, The Inner Life. 今天是第39次与海蒂读御书，我们继续读第110篇《调整者与灵魂》。今天的进度是第4节，看能不能把第5节也读了。是内在的，第4节是内在的生命。我没读之前呢，这个海蒂好像她有话要说，我们先让她发表。Okay, Heidi, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. And yes, this is our first meeting in 2024, and I'm very excited about this year. I think this is going to be an amazing year.
今天是2024年的第一次共读，他觉得今年一定是一个令人惊异的一年。
For me personally, definitely, a lot is changing in my life right now, and I'm very excited. But also for the world, I think it's going to be a very important year for the world. I think it's part of the spiritual awakening that is happening around the world right now. That's kind of going to officially begin this year, I feel.
他说对于他的个人，他做出了很多的很重大的调整，但是世界范围来讲，那么世界范围的灵性觉醒也正在进行，如火如荼的进行。
This has nothing to do with the Urantia book. Well, a little bit, because the Urantia book has let us know that it was written in the height of the material age, and it was written 50 to 70 years ago. So that means we're already entering a more spiritual age.
对，《月然下之书》也提到，当然，《月然下之书》是50年代传导的，那么那个时候他就已经告诉我们灵性时代的来临，物质时代的结束。
So it's already begun. It started, this awakening, this spiritual awakening. It's hard to say exactly when it started, but it's maybe started 20 years ago, and it's just been slowly catching on. But I think, and I could be wrong, this is just what do I know? I'm just guessing, but I feel it in my heart. I feel like this year is the year that it doesn't begin. It began 20 years ago, but this year, the year where it's sort of the momentum has built so much that there's like no stopping it, no turning back. It's like there's going to be no denying it.
当然，这个灵性觉醒其实就是从20年前就开始了，现在只是就是越来越显示这个势头是不可阻挡的、不可回头的。
So happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year.
大家新年好，新年快乐。
So I just wanted to, reading the Urantia book, some of the stuff we read pointed out that as you evolve, as you go through these lifetimes in the future, in eternity, you appreciate people more and more. You appreciate companionship more and more. You appreciate the company of other personalities more and more.
当我们从一生的角度看向永恒的时候，我们就会对对其他的存在和其他的就是同伴的陪伴都表示珍赏。
This big desire to be alone and to be a hermit and to, go into your cave and all this stuff, which I have a lot of. I've told you I'm that I have a lot of that myself. this seems to be a very earthly thing, and as we move on to the other worlds and closer to God, we'll have less and less desire to be alone and to go into our cave and to be in solitude, and we'll have more and more desire to share our time with other people.
对，就那些就是觉得灵性追求啊，都是要自己一个人单独的到一个洞里边去做一个隐居者。现在看来已经是呃非常地球化的一种思维方式。那么，如果想要完成这个神的旨意，其实不是你单独的，而是你跟别人、跟同道的，就是跟同伴一起共同分享、共同实现达成的。
And another thing the Urantia book does say is that when you're depressed, the worst thing you can do is be alone. When you're depressed, you should always seek out the company of other people.
嗯。他说，就是在你抑郁啊，比较心情沮丧的时候啊，最差的一个是对应方式、对付方式，就是你自己一个人单独，你要尽量往外边去找那种伙伴的交流啊、陪伴啊，这样。
So the other thing is when you're alone, you can get, you can kind of obsess with things. And when you're around people, they're more likely to pull you out of those obsessions.
对，你自己一个人的时候，很容易对什么东西上瘾，但是呢，如果你跟人相处接触呢，他们就会帮你从这种的上瘾行为当中把你拉出来。
And the other thing is, that we all need so much practice being tolerant of other people, being generous to other people, being considerate and kind. And it's hard to get that practice when you're alone.
对，我们要操练那些美德，像忍耐呀、慷慨呀、体恤他人啊，这就是慈悲啊，这些的品质，你自己一个人是很难去培养的。
But, if you're an artist or a writer or a musician, I mean, a scientist, I mean, there's many people who need to be alone for what they're doing, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's just finding the right balance, and knowing that as you evolve, you're going to you're going to seek the company of others more and more. That's a good thing to know. I never knew it till this. I never noticed it when I read the Urantia book until this time with all of you. I mean, recently is that I realized that I never noticed the Urantia book said that.
对，但是当然，你如果是画家呀、音乐家呀、科学家呀，你当然需要一些单独的，时间去进行你的创作，但是要去掌握一个平衡哈。随着你的灵魂的进化呢，对，那就是要掌握跟人相处、自己独处的这个平衡。从来没有注意到《月染下之书》讲到这个陪伴的。那个重要性，一直到这一次我在读《月染下之书》的时候，才意识到，以前都没有注意到《月染下之书》强调这个。
But on the other hand, sometimes, well, often you're alone through no fault of your own. You may not have children. You may not be near your brothers and sisters, or you may not even be close to them.
对，但是呢，另一方面呢，你单独生活一个人生活，有的时候并不是你的错误，有可能你就是没有孩子啊，你跟家族其他的成员就是离得很远啊。
You may have children who have already moved out of the house and moved away, and your best friend may live 3,000 miles away.
对你，或者你的孩子就是长大了，离开家了，或者你的朋友3000英里之外，
People you love may have died.
你热爱的人有可能已经死了。
So there's many people who are alone a lot, not necessarily by choice.
对，所以有些人他是单独生活的就是但是这个不是他自己选择的。
Or when you feel depressed or sad or anxious or self-recriminating, at that time, at that moment, at that hour, it may be 3 in the morning. You may not have access to anyone. You may not be able to reach out to someone at the time when you need it most.
对，但是当然有的时候你比较抑郁啊，或者是焦虑的时候，或者是反省的时候，有可能你正好是身边是没有人的。
And then there's other there's something else, and that is that you may want to do something and you may be anxious about it or afraid to do it or insecure. You may not have the motivation to get started. You might be afraid you're going to fail. So these aren't really depression or sadness, but they're times when it would help to have sort of a pep talk or a coach or or some teammates to, you go girl, go do it, mister. So there are times when you don't have the support group there, but you still have to go and do something that's hard to do or challenging.
对，那有的时候你想做什么事情，有一些恐慌，有一些没有安全感，害怕失败，然后呢，这个时候非常的有帮助。如果有人在边上跟你鼓励哈，拍着你的肩膀，告诉你说，女孩儿，去做，大胆去做啊。当然，有的时候就是你没有这样的一个支持团队啊。就是非常的，难去面对一些的挑战和有勇气去做一些新的尝试。
So we've been reading about the thought adjuster for, many weeks now.
我们读关于思想调整者的篇章已经很多星期了，
And we're going to read the Jesus papers very soon.
我们会很快就开始读到耶稣的关于耶稣的文章，关于耶稣的文章，对。
And I think we're about to read, aren't we about to read about about the guardian angels a little bit. Seraphic Guardians of Destiny. We're about to read that in a few it's about 2 papers from, very soon.
对，我们会要读到一些关于治天使啊，还有天界的那种行政管理的，对，好像有一两篇。
So we know that we have a thought adjuster who's with us, just completely devoted to us 24/7, with us, rooting for us, cheering for us, helping us, feeling everything we feel, and wanting to be one with us, wanting to become one person with us.
Yeah，是我们有思想调整者24小时7天的跟我们同在啊，然后呢，想要给我们指导啊、帮助啊，就是给我们加油啊，他能够感觉我们所有的感觉，并且他希望跟我们成为合一，成为一个人。
So when we walk around saying, "Oh, I'm lonely. I'm so lonely. I'm alone. Why me? Someone died. Here I am, all alone." It's not really very considerate to our thought adjuster.
对，如果我们像幽灵一样走来走去的说啊，为什么是我啊？为什么我这么孤独，就一个人？啊，我的亲人都死了，那我太孤单了。那么你实际上你就根本就忽略了你的思想调整者一直跟你同在。
because he's right there. And we're like, and he's saying, you're not that alone.
对，因为他就在那里，他就一直在跟你说，你不是单独的，你不是那么孤单的。
And we all have a group guardian angel and circle. Then we have our own guardian angel. But even if we haven't reached our third circle yet, we still have a group guardian angel.
对，就是我们一直有那个嗯给保护群体的那个天使啊，也有我们个人的天使啊。即使就是你没有达到第三个心灵圆圈，那么你也有那种就照顾一个群体的天使，他们一直都在关照我们。
And they work in teams. Every guardian angel is a team. It's a pair of angels.
对，那个天使，并且都是成对成对的来服务的，都是一个团队。
And every pair, we call it a guardian angel because there's always one on duty. When one is resting, one is working.
对，我们就是说到保护天使，就是认为只有一个，但是实际上就是有一个休息，另外一个值班，他们就是一直这样的工作。
I'm not saying they're never working together or they're never awake at the same time. I'm sure they are. I'm just saying there's always one guarding us.
对，我不是说他们没有一起都是醒着工作的，合作的时候，只是说他们总是有一个在当值。
And this pair of guardian angels, they have another pair who are the cherubim and the sanibim, who are their assistants. So we don't have one guardian angel, we have 4 guardian angels.
对，至少一个当值哈。那个主天使之外，还有2个副天使，那就是也是一对儿的，他们是一种协助的，副天使，所以实际上是有4个的。
Now Jesus, before he left the earth, he poured out the spirit of truth onto our planet.
那耶稣当离开地球的时候，他是播撒那个真理之灵，覆盖这个地球。
It's an actual spirit of some kind, and we can feel it, we all have access to it, and it's incredibly beneficial to us. It's incredibly loving and soothing, and I believe it's really hard to know exactly what it is, but I believe it's partly, mainly because it's called the spirit of truth, right? Not beauty, not love, not God. It's called the spirit of truth. I think it keeps us in tune and in line with the truth.
嗯，这个就是真理之灵哈，是一种真正的一种灵性啊。这个灵性是对我们非常的有益的，我相信这个真理之灵是充满了爱和充满了安慰的力量的。那么，为什么叫它真理之灵？因为它可以帮助我们，就是更与真理能够协调匹配。
Now, there are many other spiritual influences, the creative mother spirit, the cosmic mind. There are The midway creatures are sometimes are looking after us. There are many, many other spiritual influences all around us also.
对，那还有就是造物母灵的宇宙心识啊，还有嗯中道者，就是那个也在我们周围啊，就是还有其他的灵性的影响也都在我们周围。
So what I'm saying is, we're really never alone.
对，我只是想表达的是，我们从来都没有单独，没有孤独过。
If we if we if we reach our hands out, there's a lot of spirits that can hold our hand anytime we want.
如果我们伸出手去，那么很多的灵性存有都会握住我们的手，我们从来没有孤单。
Not only do we have 24/7 uh, companions, best friends, and guardians, but they also love us, each one of us personally.
对，这些的灵性存有哈，他们是24小时7天的陪伴，他们是最好的朋友，他们是真忠诚的爱我们。
So I just wanted to share this is something I've been thinking about, and I just wanted to share it because it's been very soothing and helpful for me to realize this. And I want everyone to realize that once you know this stuff, you know that you're not alone. You're never okay. It's not quite like having, someone who you can, share a sandwich with, but they're there and you can feel their presences and you can speak to them and you can be guided by them and they do look after you. So you allow yourself to feel comforted by them, allow yourself to be guided, but just know you're never ever ever, not for one moment, not for 1 second, you're never alone. You're always looked after.
Yeah. 就是非常的意识到那个我们不是孤独的，是非常的令人感到安慰的。当然，我们没有一个实体来一起分享一个三明治，但是他们的临在是我们可以感觉到的。嗯可以跟他们交流，寻求他们的指导，他们也一直在照看你。你就一直是被安慰的，被指导的，没有一刻钟和1秒钟你是孤单的。
It's like every one of us has a team that's working with us. So it's like now I'm calling it Team Heidi. And in the morning, I say, Good morning, Team Heidi. And when I think of Ricky, I think Team Ricky. And I think Sunny's on your team, your thought adjuster, your guardian angels, your spirit of truth is hanging around.
嗯
You got, I know you have some celestial beings helping you do all the work, the Urantia work you're doing, and it's Team Ricky. So it's Team Eva, and it's Team Leah, and it's Team Ling Zhu.
嗯
And
，Yeah。
it's Team Eric, it's team, we're really, we really each have a not just one person, but we have a team working with us.
他说每一个人都有一个团队来给每个人围绕每一个人工作。那么每天早晨我醒来，我就会跟我的团队打招呼，说："嗨，海底，支持海底的团队，你们早上好。"我也知道Ricky 要有一个支持的团队来，支持他每天的生活，然后他做这个月亮下有关的这些的工作。那么像艾娃、莉亚、荔枝、Eric，你们都有一个支持你们的团队。
Team Shun Li.
Yeah，沈丽，沈丽是 on air，on in the air。
Yeah, she'll be
Shirley,
looking, she'll listen to the recording and hear
yeah,
this.
Shirley is flying. She told us that she's going to miss our session today. Yeah. Hi.
So it's pretty exciting when you think of, and this is the last thing I'll say and then we'll read. The more I read this book, the more I realize that God and the universe, they're very generous. There's like no scarcity. It's not like, oh, people are going hungry. Oh, there's not enough energy. Oh, there's not enough water. Oh, there's not enough food. Oh, there's not enough. Yeah, I don't have enough friends. We don't have enough clothing. It's the exact opposite of scarcity. It's abundance. You don't just have one guardian angel, you have four. You don't just have God talking to you, you have him living inside you. It's like God is so generous, he goes a little bit overboard sometimes.
嗯哼哼。呀，当我越来越读这个《月亮下之书》，我就是发现神是这么的慷慨，那么我们从来都没有匮乏，像是啊，我们水不够啊，食物不够啊，我们朋友不够啊。其实正好相反，那么我们是非常的丰盛的。那么神不光是跟我们讲话，他实际上就是在我们里边。活在我们里边，那么他对我们的关照，有的时候就是都有点溺爱了，有点过分了。
And there's absolute we're so afraid, we're so nervous, we're so anxious, we're afraid of failing, we're afraid we won't get things done, we're afraid we won't succeed. None of that is true. We cannot, all we have to do is say, take my hand, God, tell me where to go, and I'll go there. Lead me, and I'm following. That's all we have to do. And whether we go slow or fast or take a detour or go in circles for a while and then figure out where we're going, none of that matters. None of it matters. They love us, they're there for us, and they're going to lead us forward as long as we agree. So we have absolutely nothing to worry about.
嗯。Yeah，so 就是我们经常的有恐慌啊、焦虑啊、紧张啊、害怕失败呀、害怕自己成功不了啊，其实就是要跟神就伸出手去，就是让神握住我们的手，引领我们，我们就是跟随他就好了，不管我们走得慢还是快啊，还是绕路啊、转圈儿啊。不管怎么样，他就是一直是爱我们，引领我们。对，只要我们同意被他引领，所以就不用担心。
We just read last week, I think. I can't see where it says it. Remember, Ricky, team Ricky,
嗯
that we read that anything you set out to accomplish, if you don't accomplish here, you will accomplish, you will you will accomplish it in time. But actually that's true. But I think what we read said anything you desire, as long as it's not bad for you, you will get in time. Remember we read that?
Yeah, I seem to
Did you?
remember. Yes.
Yeah, we just read it
Yeah.
last week. But but
Mm.
but I'm just saying to reassure everyone, anything you want to accomplish, you will accomplish in time. If you can't do it here, you've all of eternity to do it. Anything you really desire, you will get. As long as it doesn't hurt you, you can have it. Because God's not saying, no, you can't have the blue boat. I want you to, have a green boat. It doesn't work that way. He loves you. You can have whatever you want. He wants us to be happy. So so there's no reason to worry or be alone or be sad ever again.
Yeah.
That's my New
对。
Year's message.
Yes, thank you. 那个 你前面章节当中，我们有读到，就是你想在时间里完成的你的夙愿，其实都是可以在永恒当中慢慢去实现的。只要那个愿望不是坏的，不是伤害你的，你都有机会去完成的。不是说你想要一个蓝色的船啊，一定塞给你一个绿色的船，那你的愿望一定会达成的。所以就是我们要，对，就是不要有忧虑，就是要感到快乐和幸福，不要再有悲哀和觉得孤单的感觉。这是他新年对我们的祝愿。Yes, that's true.
Anyone
Thank you.
yep. And I forgot to add anyone that we love and we want to see again that we can't, we're not seeing them for some reason.
嗯。
Eventually, in time, we will see them again.
对，那些我们爱的人是我们见不到了，但是在永恒里边，在时间的长河里，我们还是会见面的，还是都能再见的。
Okay, now to the book.
现在可以读书了。
Number 4, the inner life.
第4部分是内在的生命。
Recognition is the intellectual process of fitting the sensory impressions received from the external world into the memory patterns of the individual. Okay. Understanding connotes that these recognized sensory impressions and their associated memory patterns have become integrated or organized into a dynamic network of principles.
哪个伙伴给读翻译的部分
Are you
？Yeah, I'm asking who is going to read the translation
Oh.
part.
Oh.
So, Leah, 你可以吗？方便吗？哪个伙伴方便？
我来读吧。
好的。
第4部分，内在生命。认知是从外部世界接收的感官印象与个体的记忆模式相匹配的质性过程。理解意味着这些被识别的感官印象及其相关的记忆模式已经融合或组织成一个原理的动态网络。
Okay.
You is reading the translation now.
Oh, not Leah?
No, not Leah. It's you.
Okay. You, but not you.
Yeah, it's you.
Because I don't read Chinese. Okay. So meaning let's see. I'll read the next few paragraphs.
他说他要读下几段，对 ，OK。
Meanings are derived from a combination of recognition and understanding. Meanings are non-existent in a wholly sensory or material world. Meanings and values are only perceived in the inner or supermaterial spheres of human experience. The advances of true civilization are all born in this inner world of mankind. It is only the inner life that is truly creative. Civilization can hardly progress when the majority of the youth of any generation devote their interests and energies to the materialistic pursuits of the sensory or outer world. The inner and the outer worlds have a different set of values. Any civilization is in jeopardy when 3/4 of its youth enter materialistic professions and devote themselves to the pursuit of the sensory activities of the outer world. Civilization is in danger when youth neglect to interest themselves in ethics, sociology, eugenics, philosophy, the fine arts, religion, and cosmology. Only, and this is the last paragraph I'll read, only in the higher levels of the superconscious mind, as it impinges upon the spirit realm of human experience, can you find those higher concepts in association with effective master patterns, which will contribute to the building of a better and more enduring civilization. Personality is inherently creative, but it thus functions only in the inner life of the individual.
然后从第2段就是一直读到第5段，就是他刚才读的郁金香，从第2段开始到第5段。
意义来源于认知和理解的结合。在完全的感官或物质世界中，意义是不存在的。只有在人类经验的内在或超物质领域中，才能感知意义和价值。真正文明的进步都源自这人类内心世界。只有内在生命才真正具有创造性。当任何一个世代的大多数青年将他们的兴趣与精力投入到感官或外在世界的物质追求时，文明很难进步。内在世界和外在世界有着不同的价值观。当一个文明3/4的青年人进入物质主义职业，并追求外在世界感官活动时，这个文明就处于很危险的境地了。当青年人无法对伦理学、社会学、优生学、哲学、美术、宗教和宇宙学产生兴趣时，文明就处于危险之中了。只有在超意识心智的更高层面上，与人类体验的灵性领域相互作用，你才能找到那些与有效主导模式相关联的更高概念。这些主导模式将有助于建立更美好、更持久的文明。人格本质上也是有创造力的，但它也因此只在个体的内在生命中发挥作用。读到这里是吧？
Okay. So this is interesting. It's saying that our mind, our normal human material mind recognizes things, it identifies things, and it files them. It associates them with memory because it's our memory that we can look at something, our mind, and go, okay, there's a thing and it's big and it's white and it's square. But we have to associate it with our memory to say that's a refrigerator. We remember that it's a refrigerator. So our mind is constantly looking and identifying things and then associating with our memory so that it can identify them and file them in the right place.
对，他就说我们的物质心智啊，这个认知的过程，然后也可以把这个感官影响与我们的记忆模式相匹配啊，看它是这样长宽高，然后就是认识出它是一个冰箱。
But then that's not enough, because so first we identify it. There's a big white thing there and it's metal, and then we associate it with the memory. Oh, that's a refrigerator. I remember that. But that's not enough, because then we need to give it some kind of meaning. and understanding. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I want 1? Do I want 10? You know, we have they're saying that the identification and associating it with memory is a mechanical process, but then to understand it, to put it in context, to give it some kind of meaning, that goes beyond the material mind. That goes into the superconscious, and it also ties into it calls it a network of principles. What they mean by that is we're not to understand something. Well, I should stop there because I've said enough.
那它就是我们看到它是白的、金属的，那么这个就是一个机械的一个认知而已，我们还要赋予它意义和一些理解。我们会进一步说，我是不是喜欢它呀？我是不是想要买一台呀？那么就可以在这个一个情境当中去进行一些的判断。那么这是超意识层次的功能，是这个原理的动态网络的功能。
So now we've got so now we have a brain that identifies things, associates them with memory, and now we're using our higher mind, or a non-material part of our mind, to understand what we're seeing.
对物质心智这个认知，就是还要给这个更高层次的那个心智层次，然后才能赋予它意义。
But what does understanding mean? It's not just saying, okay, I understand as a refrigerator, everyone has them. I've always had one, you know, that's more memory, all these things. They're saying that understanding is completely integrated with principle. So to really understand something, you have to give it value. You have to say, is this important? Does it mean anything if it gets scratched? Is the refrigerator as important as whether or not my husband comes home tonight? Is the refrigerator as important as whether my child is crying? You know, these now we're talking about principles. What's important? What isn't? What do I value? What do I not value? Now, values have to do with principles, because you have principles, what's important to you and what isn't. So that's what they're talking about. They're saying every single thing we look at and think about, we're using our non-material, supramaterial mind to an extent, to just when we give something meanings and values and understanding.
对，那个，像我是不是以前也有过冰箱啊？这属于记忆，但是呢，需要跟那个原理去整合，然后给它一个价值，给它的重要性。这个是超物质的部分的心智的功能。就是说我拥有一个冰箱跟，我的丈夫晚上是否回家，然后我的孩子是否有没有哭，然后这些都是可以关联的。那个，总之就是这个理解力，这个理解它是超越这个物质心智的范畴的。
So then they're saying in the next paragraph that meanings are derived from a combination of recognition and understanding. Okay, so that's the material things you recognize, and then you tie those to memories, and then you have an understanding of what you're seeing, what you've identified. Okay, but then they're saying now, once you have an understanding, you have to give it meaning, or else it's like a kind of a meaningless understanding. You know, you can understand that you're looking at a battle, and two groups are engaged in a war and they're killing each other. you can understand what they're doing. You can even understand why they're doing it. Well, this country got in a fight with that country. But meaning is what'll make you be horrified at what you're seeing, or root for one side, or how you feel about it, what it means, what it's going to mean to the next generation, what it means in a context. All those things, what they're saying is that understanding requires a higher mind, but understanding is not enough. You have to have meaning. You have to what you understand, also you have to know what it means.
对，然后在第二段呢，就是这个理解力还要加上那个意义，给它意义。你比如两个国家或者两个两个团体打架，你就是了解他，要懂得他为什么会打起来，然后呢，还要进一步的思考，就是到底这个意味着什么。嗯，你可能被他吓到了，或者你就是偏向一边，或者你会想，哎，这对下一代会有什么什么影响？如果是没有赋予意义的理解，那么就是没有意义的。
And then they're saying that if the world was wholly material, if we didn't use our super material inner experience, there would be no meaning. There would just be a bunch of stuff, and we'd know what it was, but there would be no life, everything. There would be no meaning. They're saying meaning is a super material thing.
对，赋予意义呢，是超物质的一种体验。如果没有赋予意义，那么外界的这些的，这些的事物都是没有意义的。就是，
And that's why you can't, you can take a refrigerator and you can measure it, you can weigh it, you can look at the serial number, you can see when it was made, you can identify all kinds of things about it. But what it means, you can't weigh, you can't measure, you can't, because that's a personal, the value it has is different to each person. You can say, you can give it the monetary value, but what something means to you, what sunny means to you, what a rainy day means to you, you can't measure it, you can't calculate it. It's a personal, super material reality that has to do with value, and value is not a material thing.
对，那个冰箱你可以称重啊，你可以测量它的大小啊，看它哪一年制造的呀，它的那个号码是什么呀？就是，但是呢，你可以给它不同的意义啊，它的金钱价值啊，但是它对你意味着什么？这只小猫对我意味着什么？那么这都是非常的个人的，并且是超物质的一个实相。这个价值是超物质的，超物质范畴的一个东西。
And then in the next paragraph, the third paragraph, they're saying that everything of value, everything with meaning in the world, in our civilization, comes from our inner self, our super material selves. And it's only this inner life that is truly creative. So now you can make things, you can create some things without, but they won't be very good. True creativity, beautiful art, beautiful music, a beautiful building, all these things, they come from a higher part of your inner nature. the material world is not creative. It's functional. But creativity is a meaningful thing with value, and these things are not material. So everything, all the advances of civilization come from this inner super material, or we could say spiritual world.
嗯哼，Yeah。对，那么就是你的内在的自我，就是超物质的部分是创造价值的。那些真正的美的音乐啊、艺术啊，它们其实都是就是内在价值的一种体现，不光是外在的功能性。所以呢，有内在价值意义的才是有意义的。所以那个真正的文明，它是属于属灵的，它是属灵的，属灵的，才是就是文明的进步。
So that there will always, on a material world, there will always be some people who are more material oriented and some who are more spiritually oriented.
对，那个现实当中总是会有一些人比较物质倾向比较重，有一些人灵性倾向比较重。
You may even be very spiritually evolved, but really enjoy doing something material, like being a carpenter, or building a boat, or even Jesus was a carpenter and he was a fisherman. Those were not material. He wasn't a religious leader. He had material jobs. So making things, building things, being a doctor, being, there's nothing wrong with having a profession that's not a spiritual profession. But all right, I'll let you say that.
对，并且这两者呢，也不是说完全排除的。你可以属灵方面非常的进步，进化很好，但是也同样也跟这个物质去密切的打交道。像比如说一个木匠，你像耶稣，他是不是一个宗教领袖？他也有他的物质方面的工作，那么他就是一个木匠。
But just like the week before last, when we were talking about the 7 psychic circles, we were talking about how the goal of each person is to find a balance between the material, the spiritual, their mind, their feelings, their psychology, their spirituality. We were just like that balance we're talking about for each individual. They're saying here, society also needs a balance. There has to be a balance between this material and the spiritual in the world also, for it to move forward, for civilization to progress in a healthy spiritual way.
对，我们前面读到那7个心灵圆圈哈，就是要每一个人的理想的要去达成的，就是强调的是这个人哈，从身心灵啊、情感啊、心理，就是属灵各个方面都要达到一个平衡，这样才能够比较健康的去进展。那么这里边，就是现在读的章节也强调，每一个的人类的文明，它也需要平衡这个物质和属灵2个方面，否则这个文明很难进步。
So it's saying civilization can hardly progress when the majority of the youth, the young people of any generation, devote their interests and energies to the materialistic pursuits of the sensory or outer world. So they're saying when the majority are focusing on just material things, that's not good. That's very unhealthy. Civilization will not progress. And then they say the inner and outer world have a different set of values. Then they say in the fourth paragraph, any civilization is in jeopardy when 3/4 of its youth enter materialistic professions and devote themselves to the pursuit of the sensory activities of the outer world. And I get the feeling that they're talking about when this book was written, that they're saying that I don't know this, but it just feels very, very strongly to me that they're saying right now in your world, 3/4 of the youth are going and this is bad. You got, this has to change. That's
Yeah.
the feeling I get. Because they're using, why are they saying 3/4? You know, it's
Right. So specific.
yeah. And why would they tell us, because it's, one world might be, a little more than half and this one might be 2/3 and, but they're giving a specific number that makes me think that they're saying this. They wrote this book, we were at the height of the material age, which was not a good thing. So it fits
Yeah.
with that.
所以这个3、4段哈，就是强调就是年轻人，尤其是强调这个年轻人把兴趣跟精力投入到感官和外在世界哈，然后3/4的青年人进入物质主义职业啊，追求外在世界的感官活动，这个文明就处于很危险的境地了。那么这就是让我们猜测，有可能在这本书写作的那个时候，地球上已经有这样的一个危险的现象，就是3/4的年轻人他们就是从事的是物质主义的职业。所以实际上这个就是对我们的警告。
And then the last sentence, it says, civilization is in danger when youth neglect to, this is the last sentence, when youth neglect to interest themselves in ethics, sociology, eugenics, philosophy, the fine arts, religion, and cosmology. So those are the more spiritual professions.
底下就是提到这些伦理学、社会学、优生学、哲学、美术、宗教、宇宙啊，这些的都是属于跟灵性有关的这些的学科和职业。那么就
And
对这
really,
些没有
really,
兴趣，对，就是相当于年轻人对灵性方面的东西不感兴趣了，这个文明就比较危险了。
So for at least 50 years, maybe more like 100, when the Age of Enlightenment, when it started, but for the last 50 years, a big time, but not for the last 10 years. That's when it started changing. But there's been such an emphasis on the material, on science and math and technology and industry, that there's been a complete lack of balance. And there hasn't been, for young people, it hasn't been very appealing to go into ethics and sociology and eugenics and philosophy and the fine arts, religion, cosmology. It really hasn't been very, doesn't pay well. People don't get impressed by it. And no one cares about that stuff. So, they've done so much better when they go into technology and these kind of things.
相当于这50年，过去的50年，实际上，这个我们更强调就是科学啊、技术啊、工业啊，这些方面的职业。那就是如果一个人想学社会学啊，这是伦理学啊，这些的东西，那么人文科学，对吧？那就是工资也不好，人家也不会觉得你多么重要，对，就是几乎大部分的精力、大部分的注意力，我们都集中在科技的进步上。
That's why when this book came out in 1955, no one ever heard of it. No one wanted to read it. I would go for 10, 15 years without meeting one person who ever heard of it.
所以这本书是50年代嘛，上世纪50年代，1955年出版的。但是，我从知道这本书以后，10到15年我都没有碰到一个读这本书的人。
But now that we've crossed that bridge, you know, now that I truly believe we're not, we've come down, we've already peaked at the most material and we're starting to get more spiritual. Now more and more people are hearing about this book, reading about this book. Every 5 years, every 10 years, more and more, you know, it still really surprises me when I go online or I go to YouTube and I type in Urantia and I get all these results, because I remember when there was no mention of it anywhere. You could not find a mention of this book.
对，现在我们过了那个桥，然后从那个物质，强调物质文明，然后呢，慢慢的转到属灵追求这一边，然后更多的人，听到和读到这本书，就是现在我在网上查，像油管里边查这个《月亮下之书》，那么就会跳出来很多，那么以前几乎都没有人提及这本书。
But that's because people are slowly making that change to be more interested in these more spiritual things, and to get the world back into balance.
对，那么实际上是因为更多的人就是关注灵性，然后，想把人类这个文明就是拉回到平衡的状态。
But now I have to take a moment, especially for the people who will be listening to this recording, and explain why they put eugenics in this list.
对，现在就是让大家注意一下，为什么他把优生学也放在就这人文科学这个。
There's nothing wrong with the science of eugenics.
就是优生学的科学是没有错的。
But unfortunately, very, very bad people in the United States, and then Hitler, it actually started in the United States, and then before Hitler got into it, but then it became very, very well known because of Hitler, and they got a hold of it and they distorted it. They were racist, they were evil, and they used it in the worst possible. They took something good and they used it for the bad.
本来优生学是没有问题的，那么实际上在美国开始发展了一门科学，但是希特勒嘛，把它攫取来做，不好的，扭曲了做不好的是那个目的，那么他是一个种族主义者，一个很恶的，就是用这个原理或者这种思想，实际上装备了非常恶的行为。
Eugenics means, the meaning of the word eugenics is breeding. It really means breeding.
那个优生学原来的意义就是育种，
So when the Urantia book talks about eugenics, you see, on a normal world, when Adam and Eve come, their higher race mixes with the mortal races and elevates them and adds superior DNA to the whole race, to all the races, and everyone is uplifted, everyone is healthier, everyone is stronger, everyone is smarter, everyone has a better sense of humor. That's how it happens on a normal world. That's eugenics.
对，当那个亚当夏娃来的时候，他们一个比较高贵的，就是比较很先进的种族，那么他们跟凡人的种族去混合，这样的话，改良我们的 DNA，那么使我们更健康、更聪明、更强壮，这个是好的优生学的应用。
So when Prince Caligastia came 500,000 years ago with his staff of 100, eventually their offspring, they were allowed to have children, and their offspring was going to, well, they did actually mate with the people of Earth. And that's why there's so many tales about, they call them the Nephilim, all the religions on Earth have these tales about these ancient giants, these ancient people from space, these ancient gods that came to Earth. That's what they're all talking about, is the prince's staff.
对，当50万年前那个星球王子卡里加夏来到的时候，他也带来了100个那个随行的工作人员。那么这些人，他们跟地球人，那个交合，就是也产生这个后代。那么，嗯。在各个民族的传说当中都会有，就是都有这个关于巨人的记载。那么他们被称为这个古代的神。
So his staff, these were mortals, not from our planet, but from other planets, who had lived on material worlds, but they had already died and gone to the Morancha worlds, gone through all the Morancha worlds, and ended up on the system capital, Jerusalem. And that's where they were recruited or volunteered to be the staff members, the 100 corporeal, to be basically reincarnated with human DNA and to live here as humans, but as superior humans.
对，这些的随行人员，他们本来也是凡人，但是他们扬升，然后到系统的首府耶路撒冷，然后呢到地球上，就是又重新投生成地球的人类，这相当于，对，他们投生成人身，然后再怎么样。
So when they came down here to reincarnate as mortals, they were given human DNA and human bodies, but also a superior plasma. So they were like half human. They were more or less human. They had human DNA, but they weren't completely human, and they could eat from the tree of life and live forever, as long as they kept eating this I don't know if it was the leaves or probably the fruit from this special tree. I wonder what happened to the tree of life. But it wouldn't help us anyway, because we don't have that plasma. But maybe it may still be here. But they could live forever. But when Caligastia rebelled, the good people, Amadon and Van, who were still good and didn't rebel, they took the tree of life with them. So then eventually all those people died. But my point is, those people they had human DNA and, okay, I'll let you say that much.
对，他们有人的身体，但是他们的体液还是非常的高级的，所以他们实际上是半人。 只要他们吃生命树的叶子或者可能是果实，那么他们就可以永远活着，不用死。但是呢，卡里加夏叛变之后呢，相当于阿曼德和这个 Van 把那个生命树拿走了，那么这些人他最终也就死了。
They were supposed to mate with each other, and they did, but their offspring, which would be their children, which included the midway creatures, and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren would all mate with human beings.
对，他们互相就是那个婚配，然后但是他们的后代呢是跟人类去婚配，当然也产生一些中道，第一就是中道受造物。
So they had superior DNA, truly superior DNA. And you know, we're not allowed to say that now because of Hitler and all of these evil people. We can't say one race is better than another. But in those days, there really was a race that really was much better. It wasn't even human. So they were like, you could say they were like God men, but they weren't really that godly. They were just more evolved than we were. So that's eugenics. When they bred with human beings, when their offspring bred, they uplifted the human races. They made them superior. They made them more resistant to disease, a better sense of humor, because the earth, the evolved earth beings really had almost no sense of humor at all. So I'll let you go with that.
对，他们的确就是有比较高级的，更先进的 DNA，但是因为这个希特勒把这个优生学那搞的就是认为一个种族，比另外一个种族优越，这搞扭曲了，所以我们不能那么说，但实际上他们的确有比较更先进的 DNA，他们可以相当于是像神人一样的。他们跟人类去杂交的话，相当于把人类的那个遗传物质也都相当于都进化了、提升了。那人类就是可以更健康、更强壮啊，更有幽默感呐、是这样子的。
When people have been breeding dogs for, I don't even know, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, to get dogs that are very good guard dogs or very good herding dogs or very good sniffing, smelling, hunting dogs. That's eugenics. What people have been breeding plants and flowers and roses to make them better, more resistant to insects, more flowers, bloom more, have longer bloom. That's eugenics. Anything to do with breeding is eugenics, and it's not evil. None of that is evil.
对，我们其实都在用这个那个优生学，那个像比如说那个配种，那个狗可以就是通过这种杂交产生出很好的看家狗啊、牧羊犬呐、或者是那种用来打猎的那种嗅觉特别灵敏的狗啊，植物也是啊，对，通过配种。通过杂交，就是比如说那个花儿可以就非常的开花持久啊，比较耐旱呐、那个这些都是好的优生学的应用。
But when you get someone like Hitler who's saying, the white race is superior and all of the Jews have to be killed in, ovens and concentration camps, and anyone who's not white, who's a gypsy or black or any, half Jewish, or they all have to die because they're an inferior race. That's evil.
啊，但是的，希特勒就如果他强调白人是优先的，然后，就把这个犹太人给送到集中营啊，或者是吉普赛人啊、黑人啊，都是比较劣等的啊，这些都是不好的、恶的、邪恶的行为。
So whenever people, I don't know about China, but whenever people in the West hear the name eugenics, they think of Hitler. They think of wiping out whole races of people, of elevating one race over all the others, of killing people that aren't that race. But that's not what the Urantia book is talking about.
对，所以就是优生，当你提到优生，有的人就会把它联系跟那个希特勒联系，说是好像要消灭另外一个种族，完全的实行这种的种族灭绝政策相联系起来。其实本来优生学不是这样子的。
That is taking a perfectly good, useful, beneficial science and distorting it because you're so evil and you're so warped that you only know how to do evil, warped things. But it doesn't mean the science is bad. It just means what you do with it is bad.
对，对，本来就是一个很有用的、有益的科学，就是把它用来做，不好的意图，那么就是这个是一种扭曲。
So on a normal planet, that you've got these the Prince Caligastia, his staff would have children and grandchildren and great grand. They would eventually have a very, very big help, but they rebelled, so everything went wrong. But if things didn't go wrong, they'd have a huge civilization, and all those people would be mating with all of the humans, and everyone would benefit.
对，就是在如果是行星王子没有背叛的话，那么这些的随行人员跟人类去杂交，那么实际上，对提升人类的文明应该是有好处的。
But they wouldn't mate. They wouldn't mate. And it doesn't mean they wouldn't associate with or fall in love with or marry or anything else, but they wouldn't have children with someone who had, genetic disease or was retarded, very, very inferior mental capacity, or they wouldn't persecute or harm those people, but they wouldn't have children, or maybe if they did have children, they'd be very limited number of them, or maybe they'd compensate them in some way. But it sounds bad because we think of Hitler, but if you don't think of Hitler and you think of, dogs and roses and godmen, and the point is, if you do it right, you get rid of all disease. You get rid of all mental disease. By breeding intelligently, you improve the entire race, all the races, every color.
对，通过就是就是质性的杂交，这个实际上是可以改良这个人种的，没有必要就是把一个种族灭绝，或者是那种有遗传疾病的或者脑力低下的人去灭绝，没有必要这样做。
The Urantia book says that already on our planet, there is no pure race. There are no pure yellow people, no pure red people, no pure blue people. That all of us are already mixed, but that in the future of every planet, when they settle in light life, there's just one race. Eventually all the races mixed, and you have like one basic. Now you'll have people that are look a little more this way, look more that way, you know, like just like we have people with red hair and blonde hair and black hair, and you know, but there's basically in the end, the mixing just keeps happening until there's one race.
实际上现在已经没有纯种的什么黄啊、白呀、绿啊、蓝啊这种人，就是实际上最终来讲，每一个星球到最后都是成为一个种族啊。不管我们现在来看，我们好像有红头发、棕头发、黑头发。
But the Urantia book says, now you can believe it or you might not agree with it, but the Urantia book says that on a normal planet, they know that it's going to be one race eventually, but they want that race to have all of the superior strains of every single race. They want all the superior strains, and they want to weed out the inferior strains. Not that any race is inferior to another, but that there are inferior people in each race. Inferior, maybe they have, like if you have a genetic disease, you don't want to marry and have children with someone with the same genetic disease, because then your kids are going to have that genetic disease, and then their kids are going to have that genetic disease. I mean, I agree with the book. I think that makes sense to improve the species, just the way you do with plants and animals.
对，就是相当于他强调的优生学，就是相当于就是那些的有疾病的，就是限制他们的生育就好了，就不会让这个不好的基因就是往下传就可以了啊，就是有方向性的那种优生去引导，然后说就是相当于扩大有利的基因的传播，而限制不利的基因的传播，这个是优生学的方向。
You know, or if you think that's too cruel, you know, then maybe they don't do it. Maybe they take a longer approach and they say, okay, you married, you both have this genetic disease, so you can have 2 kids. Go ahead, but you can't have 10 kids. And you guys who are very, very healthy, you can have 10 kids. You know, maybe it's something like that. The book doesn't explain how they do it.
这书也没有解释怎么样实践，怎么样去对鼓励那个基因好的多生，然后基因不太好的少生，还是怎么样？反正这书也没解释，就是他在那儿猜，可能是。
And you know, it's not like you're just trying to get all the geniuses together and have all the geniuses have children with other geniuses, because the Urantia book says that geniuses come from 2 normal parents. Geniuses don't usually come from geniuses. They come from normal people. So the whole idea is you just want healthy, happy, normal people. You're not trying to get anyone, you're not trying to get, you know, really tall people or really smart people or real, you know, you don't want everyone to play the piano like Mozart, because it's not supposed to be a planet full of geniuses. You have normal people, and then the geniuses just come from normal people when they come.
天才往往就是父母都是很平常的，所以我们就是要focus 上就是幸福、健康、平常的人，并不是把所有的那种特别优异的、聪明的、高个儿的，啊、都认为那些才是好的，不可能人人都成为莫扎特。
And the book does not say this, but I think that it's possible that they would want, if they see one race becoming too big, well, I shouldn't say that to Chinese people, because there's so much more of you than everyone else. But if they saw one race like, well, you know, China already did it. they had the one child policy, right? And then the two, like, so you've already decided not to breed less than other people. That was like that was
No,
definitely
no, they have
eugenics.
changed the policy. They now encourage you at least to have two, and then if three is best. So because the pyramid uh, structure, the population size is shrinking too fast. So
Right.
it is they are encouraging the youngsters, young couples
Yeah.
to have more children.
Yes, but even more is like 3 is a lot, And I mean, we have people like the Amish, they have 10 kids, 11 kids, 14 kids. They're real. I mean, there are people who really have a lot of children.
他又提到那个阿美是那个很特别的一个族群，他们就是相当于信耶稣基督，但是他们也是就是非常跟外界隔绝，不采用任何的现代的科技的手段，然后他们就是不限制生多少孩子，生10来个都有可能。
I'm just saying that I was just trying to say that if if you were intelligently applying eugenics in a moral, ethical way, you might want to make sure that like the American Indians, you know, had more children than groups that so that you'd end up with an equal amount of the different races, that when we have a blend, it's a nice blend of everyone. I would think, I'm just guessing, that might be a good idea, because I would think you'd want the same amount of everyone in the end.
No, that's your guess.
Oh
Same.
yeah. No, it's completely my guess,
Yeah.
not from the book.
他就是强调要用比较道德的、符合伦理的方式来，做这个优生学方面的推广啊和实践应用。
In other words, I would think you would want just the opposite of what Hitler did. Hitler was trying to get rid of races, and I would say no, you'd want a lot of everyone.
Yes，对，他就是说做那个跟希特勒相反的就对了，那个要鼓励这个多样化，那每一种种族都是需要的，不能够把
Yeah.
一个种族那个优越，让其他的都该灭绝，这个是肯定不对的。Yeah, I think varieties improve the the potential of survival. That's make our DNA pool more diverse. It's
Yes, and
important.
also the Urantia book, in the part about evolution and the races, it tells us that the different races have different qualities, different strengths and weaknesses. So if you had all the races, you'd have all those special qualities that one race has and another doesn't.
对，《月亮下之书》也提到每一种族有它不同的品质，对，优势、劣势，所以那个，不能强调哪一个是多么优越。
For example, and then we'll get back to the reading, but it's very important that I talk about this eugenics, because people see that word and they would just slam the book closed and say, this is a racist book, it's evil. They would, the Urantia book has the real meaning of the word, but we have distorted the meaning so completely that anyone who sees this word would get freaked out and would just not want to read the book.
对，所以有一些人呢，他对这个敏感，他一看，诶，怎么把优生学列在里边，他就把《玉染下之书》关上了。他说，哦，《玉染下之书》是种族主义者，其实他是那个扭曲了这个优生学本来的蕴含的正面的意义。
For example, the Urantia book says that the Chinese people, especially Asians, but especially the Chinese people, because they're the purest Asian. The other Asian people are more mixed with other races, but the Chinese are the purest of the original yellow race, and they're the least warlike race of all the races. They're the least warlike. They got along with each other. They didn't all all the different tribes and provinces didn't always, I'm sure they had wars, but they didn't kill each other off, and they had a very, very strong sense of family, one of the strongest of all the races, and very tendency towards peace and harmony, and yeah, just didn't really want to fight like the American Indians. All they wanted to do was fight. All the tribes were just killing. The Urantia book says that if the Europeans didn't come to America, the Indians would have killed each other off anyway. I'm not saying what we did was a good thing. It was horrible, but the Urantia book says they were doing a pretty good job of killing each other off because all they did was fight. Not all there was a few that didn't, but a lot of the tribes did. So that's two examples.
《玉苒厦之书》当中提到，就是中国人实际上是最纯的亚裔，那么是原来的黄色种族当中比较纯的，其他的亚洲人都不太纯了。然后呢，中国人是比较的更是和平的本性，就是不愿意跟人征战的，家庭观念很强，然后追求和平和睦的生活。他提到美中印第安人实际上是非常好斗的，那么他们的部落之间呢，经常发生征战，然后即使是欧洲人没有来的话，那么他就有一个玩笑，就是即使欧洲人不来，那么他们的部落之间的征战也会到最后自己灭绝。当然，这也不一定是正确的，反正就是他就这么一个说法，他只是强调说这两个例子啊，一个比较。
The book says that, and then we'll read. I just want to say this one thing about Chinese people. They said that even the children, even Chinese children, little children, are easier to bring up than the children of the other races because they're more docile. They're not as belligerent. They're more peaceful. They're more calm. Some of these other races, the kids are very out of control, very difficult.
对，即使是领养，就是大家也发现那个中国的小孩儿，就是领养来是比较容易把他养大的，他比较温和啊，不像其他种族的小孩儿很难控制，很难管教，难管。哎呀，
So Ricky, when you say that Chinese people are naturally obedient and, don't like to make trouble or talk back so much or raise to a little bit of that, I think, is genetic, but I think most of it is cultural, but I think a little bit of it is genetic.
对，当你提到就是中国人比较的顺从，不太反抗什么权威之类的，那么这个有可能是文化的，也有可能是一部分来自基因遗传方面的，基因的这个组成，也许对这种的性格的素质也有这两种吧，文化的教育方面和这个基因方面可能都有原因。
I could use some of those genes because I have all the troublemaker genes in me. I have pure troublemaker genes. I love to make trouble.
他说他自己就是很容易捣乱的比较好斗的，他这基因当中就是这一部分比较重。他说他 那个，就是他就比较谦虚了。Yeah, so last time, last time, right? Yeah, we talk about our different, kind of different life experience. Yeah, you're a fighter. Yeah, I tend to tolerate until I no longer could tolerate. So
Oh,
that
right,
then,
when we were talking about the regrets. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, regrets.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We have to.
yeah.
We'll talk about that
So,
after this session because I wanted to say something about that.
uh,
But we'll talk about it when we're done.
mm,
Okay, so where were we? So I think snow
fifth.
crystals. Yeah,
Yeah, we are at fifth.
yeah,
Yeah, you are going to read the sixth. 第六段.
snow crystals. No,
Yeah.
we didn't finish the whole thing. Yeah, just
Oh.
snow crystals. You
Mm.
see, yeah, right here, snow crystals. On the left is at the bottom, the second from the bottom on the left, snow crystals.
Uh-huh.
It's yeah, wait, you have see, I could see the number on your screen because I don't have numbers in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 4 6 1. I mean 1 1 1 111 4 6 section section 6 oh no, section 4 6 paragraph. Yeah, snow crystals.
Yeah.
You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Snow crystals are always hexagonal in form, but no two are ever alike. Children conform to types, but no two are exactly alike, even in the case of twins. Personality follows types, but is always unique. Happiness and joy take origin in the inner life. You cannot experience real joy all by yourself. A solitary life is fatal to happiness. That's funny. We were just talking about that.
Mm.
A solitary life is fatal to happiness. Even families and nations will enjoy life more if they share it with others. Just talking about that.
Yeah.
You cannot completely, yeah, it's funny. I didn't know that was coming. You cannot completely control the external world environment. It is the creativity of the inner world that is most subject to your direction because there your personality is so largely liberated from the fetters of the laws of antecedent causation. There is associated with personality a limited sovereignty of will. Yeah, see, that's I'm always trying to figure out where the will is connected to the personality. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. Since this inner life of man is truly creative, there rests upon each person the responsibility of choosing as to whether this creativity shall be spontaneous and wholly haphazard or controlled, directed, and constructive. How can a creative imagination produce worthy children when the stage whereon it functions is already preoccupied by prejudice, hate, fears, resentment, revenge, and bigotries? Ideas may take origin in the stimuli of the outer world, but ideals are born only in the creative realms of the inner world. Today, the nations of the world are directed by men who have a superabundance of ideas, but they are poverty-stricken in ideals. That is the explanation of poverty, divorce, war, and racial hatreds. Okay, I'll stop there.
郁金香还在吗？从第六段。 还有哪个伙伴可以独
是
立？
晶体总
哦，
是呈六边形，但没有哪两个是完全相同的。孩子们有类似相似的，但没有哪两个是完全相同的。哪怕是双胞胎，人格有类型，但总是独一无二的。幸福和快乐源自于内在生命，你无法独自体验真正的快乐。单独的生活对幸福来说是致命的，甚至是家庭和国家。如果与他人共享生活，也会更享受生活。读完吗？还是读到这里？
那再往下这一直读到第9。
哦，你无法完全控制外部世界环境，内在世界的创造力量受你的指导，因为在那里你的人格很大程度上从先前因果律的枷锁中解放出来，意志的有限主权与人格相关联。由于人的内在生命是真正具有创造力的，因此每个人都有责任去选择这种创造力是自发、完全随意的，还是受控被指导和建设性的。当创造性想象力发挥作用的舞台被偏见、仇恨、恐惧、怨恨、报复和偏执所占据时，如何生得出优秀的孩子？读到
还有
这里是吧？
下一段，还有下一段。
读到想法可以源自于外部世界的刺激，但理想只能在内在世界的创造性领域中诞生。今天，世界各国的领导人拥有大量的想法，但他们的理想却很贫乏，这就是贫困、离婚、战争和种族仇恨的原因。
Thank you.
Okay, one interesting thing here is that when they say at the top snow crystals are the same, are no two are alike, but children conform to types, but no two are exactly alike, even twins. When they say children conform to types, I believe they're talking about personality types, because elsewhere in the book they mention that there are a certain number of personality types. I tried to find out how many because I thought there were 12, but I tried to look it up and I cannot verify that. I think I just imagined that because there were 12 apostles, but I think that it doesn't say how many types there are.
这第6段最后一句提到人格有类型，他说《月亮下之书》当中好像提到有多少个，大概是12个人格的类型啊。他说因为是有12个门徒嘛，他有可能对应的是12种人格类型。
But but the interesting thing is, this is really interesting. They're not just human, they're not human types, they're personality types. So you can meet an angel or a Melchizedek or a Lenonendek or some other being, and their personalities also. So you might meet another being who is your same type, because they have the same personality type, even though they're not the same type of being.
对，这个是人格类型，不是说人种、人类的类型。那么他就说，你可能遇到其他的受造物，像那中道者啊、天使啊，之类的，有可能跟你是同样的人格类型。
So when you meet someone who is your personality type, I think you feel a certain kind of rapport, because you're similar. But I think we're going to feel that when we meet other kinds of beings who are also our personality type.
对，当你遇到跟自己的人格类型很相近的人，一样的人，你就会觉得好像找到同志了一样的。
And then it says, and then skipping to the third paragraph, it says, you can't control the external world. Basically, it's saying, you're king of your castle. That's what this third paragraph here is saying. The third one of the ones we just read, because they're saying you can't control the external world, but you can control your own mind. You're the boss. You have your free will makes you almost like a king of your own personal domain.
对，你就是18段这块儿，就是说到你是，你是你自己的城堡的主人，那个国王。你不能控制外界世界，但是你能控制你自己的心智、你的头脑，用你的自由意志。
It says, the last sentence says, there is associated with personality, a limited sovereignty of will. And sovereignty, a sovereign is a ruler, is a king. And they're saying it's limited because we're not God. We can't just do anything, anytime, any place. But they're saying limited because it's within our own mind, it's within our own heart, our own soul, our own personality. But we do have free will, and we have a sovereignty of will, complete control. It's limited because we are limited, but we are not limited when it comes to making up our own minds. That's the one thing that no one can take away from us, and no one will take away from us, because that's ours. That's a gift that comes with our personality, our free will.
对，我们不是神的，所以那个自由意志实际上不是绝对的，所以他这儿说的是有限的主权，就是自由意志的有限的主权啊，这个是跟人格相连的。Heidi, what's that? What does that mean? So the largely liberated from the fetters of the laws of
I
antecedent
skipped.
causation.
You caught me. I skipped a sentence. I usually don't, but I was like skipping. I thought, this is easy. They got it.
他说我故意把那
You
那
caught
一
me.
句跨过去了，你抓住我了。Yeah, it's
You caught me.
confusing, right?
Busted.
Busted. Yeah.
It is the creativity of the inner world that is most subject to your direction, because there your personality is so largely liberated. What they're saying is that your inner, that's the only place you have true freedom, because your inner world is liberated from the fetters of laws and antecedent causation. They're saying, the outer world, this happens before that happens, and that causes this to happen, that causes that to happen. You can't change that. These things happen before you even came into the room. That's antecedent causation. It's a chain reaction. You can't control what all these other people did, all these other influences. But in your inner world, you have pretty much control, and they're calling that creativity. They're calling it creativity, which is really interesting to me, because I never thought of creativity like that. But they're saying in your head, in your mind, in your heart and soul, you can do whatever you want. You can think whatever you want. You can have whatever ideas you want. so basically they're saying that's where you can be really creative, because there's no laws, there's no rules, there's no one saying you can't think this way, you can't do that, you can't think that way. So they're saying that's true creativity.
对，就是这一段第8段就强调内在世界，你是那个你的主人，你这个创造力完全受你的指导。然后啊，外在世界有可能是很多人共同这个创造的结果，有可能遵循一定的因果律，但是在你的内在的世界而完全的受你的，你自己的创造力的指导，所以你完全可以发挥自己的自由意志，在你的心智的内在世界去创造，发挥你的创造力。
You know, that's why so often creative people do need to be alone for a certain amount of time, because they really need to be alone with their own thoughts, you know, to really let their mind just be so creative without any distraction.
对，所以实际上人是需要单独相处的时间，这样比较少受外界的影响，你这可以专注于内在的创造。
And then they're saying, okay, you have all this creativity, but it's up to you whether you want it to just be haphazard, like out of control, spontaneous but random, or directed and controlled and constructive. So they're saying no one else can do it. If you have complete freedom in your mind, but it's up to you to make some kind of order, to make it to give it some kind of structure, because otherwise it'll just be random and out of control and it won't be worth anything.
下一段第9段呢，相当于就是这个内在生命这个创造力啊，有责任，我们有责任去选择，这又是关系到这个选择的问题。对，你是让他随意的、自发的，还是受控的、被指导的和建设性的？
It's like they're saying you have a house all to a big mansion all to yourself. You can do whatever you want, but it's up to you to keep it clean. You know, it won't be worth anything if it's a big mess.
对，那么就相当于你拥有一个大房子，你是要把它保持的干净整洁呢，还是你就是，乱七八糟的，这根本让这个大房子一分钱不值了。
And I'm gonna add something here that's really interesting, because when they say it's each person's responsibility to choose whether this creativity shall be spontaneous and wholly haphazard, or controlled, directed, and constructive. Now, as a creative person, an artist, and I think a lot of people, you know, everyone's pretty creative to an extent. A part of you says, wait a minute, I don't want my creativity to be controlled, directed, and constructive. I want it to be completely spontaneous and wholly haphazard. That's more fun. I'll get more interesting results. So there's a fine line between controlling your mind and your see, I'm stuttering again. Controlling your mind and letting it completely go free. Because, all right, the reason I'm mentioning this is because most artists realize at some point that they do their best work when they have certain constraints. When you have complete freedom, it's almost like there's no boundaries. It's almost impossible to function. the best creativity comes with certain limitations. And artists know that.
嗯，对，这个关于你是不是就是完全的发挥自发性，还是加一些的指导和建设性？那么这个是这个度是那个非常微妙的这个
You know,
区分。那么有一些的艺术家，那么就实际上他们也发现，有的时候在一些的限制下面发挥创造力是可能是更好的。
so like music has a lot of rules, and even the greatest musicians, they bend the rules, but they don't break them.
嗯，就比如说音乐，创造音乐，它就是有很多的规则。那么即使是最优秀的音乐家，他们也有的时候也是要弯曲那个规则，但是他们不会破坏规则。
And some of the greatest paintings ever painted, they did it the exact same way everyone else. They took the canvas, they put gesso on it, they mixed the oil paint with the pigment, and and then they painted on this one canvas, and then they varnished it. It's like they're an artist. They could do anything. They could create in any way they want, but they're sticking to all these rules. They're really limiting themselves to this one canvas and this one type of paint. And then they're coming up with the most extraordinarily beautiful painting you ever saw in your life.
那画家呢，他也是拿起这个画布，然后这个来呃来混合颜色呀，配色调啊，然后这个完了之后要是上光啊，他也是就是在一个画布上，然后用一种的颜料，然后画出这个最优秀的作品。
So you see the most beautiful, and the Chinese, have the incredible dances. You see the most beautiful creative dancing, but it's not just a bunch of dancers getting up on stage and just dancing. It's a choreographer planning every single move for months and months and months, and practicing again and again and again. So that's creativity, but it's very structured, it's very controlled. But then you have within that control incredible freedom to express yourself.
Yeah，就是他提到有一些的中国的舞蹈非常的美，在舞台上那个，但是它是需要很多的有结构的、有控制的一些练习，然后到最后才表现那个充分的表现那种自由。
So they're saying, this is your mind. You're the boss. You can be as creative as you want, but they're saying, keep it, control it, direct it, be constructive. They're saying, how can a creative imagination produce worthy children when the stage whereon it functions is already preoccupied by prejudice, hate, fears, resentments, revenge, and bigotries? What they're saying is, don't fill your mind up with junk. Keep it clean, keep it ordered, keep high standards in there, because you won't create anything good. You won't have. And now when they say worthy children, I don't know if they're speaking metaphorically, like the children. I think they're speaking like the creative products of your mind, but they might be talking about raising real children. I can't really tell.
对，他这是说创造力的舞台，如果被那些偏见、仇恨、恐惧这些抱负、偏执所占据，如何称得出优秀的孩子？优秀的孩子应该是指的，头脑的创造性的产物。
So Then the next paragraph, ideas may take origin in the stimuli of the inner world, but ideals are born. So this is very much what they said above, that about ideas being material, but then ideals, when we're talking about ideals, that's very similar to principles, meanings, and values that we were talking about above, are born only in the creative realms of the inner world. So they're saying, they're repeating the same thing they said above, but in a different way. They're just saying the outer world, ideas, fine, they're material, but ideals, what you aspire to, your principles, your morals, your missions, these are the inner world. These are they're from your creative mind.
Are you talking about the 10th paragraph or
The one that
11?
begins with ideas may take origin in the stimuli of the outer world. That's how it starts.
I didn't get, I'm kind of absent-minded.
Okay, so yeah, it's right up, it's right here. I see it on the screen. 111.410.
Yeah, I know where we are, but
Oh,
I didn't get your
what it means?
interpretation. But I understand this paragraph well. Yeah, so yeah, so what did you say? What is your further extension about this paragraph?
Well, this one, the first sentence is pretty much saying what we said above, but then it says, today the nations of the world are directed by men who have a superabundance of ideas, which are the material part of it, but they are poverty stricken in ideals, which is the spiritual part of it,
I see.
the mission, the
Mhm.
value, the meaning, the all of the stuff that comes from your super material mind. So they have plenty of ideas, so they can identify things and access their memory and know what they're looking at and what it is, but they don't, they're lacking that depth.
Mm,
They're lacking a sense of what has value and what doesn't have value, what has real meaning and what doesn't. That's
yeah,
Marancha stuff.
I
That's
see.
soul stuff.
Right.
You know, now
Um,
when we
对，
go beyond the material, we're going into the Maranchal reality.
嗯哼，
We're the way our soul thinks. They're saying these men don't think with their soul at all. They're just thinking with their
yeah，
animal. It's like they're thinking with their animal brain.
对，他就说这一段想法来源于外部世界的刺激嘛。那这些的各国的领导人拥有大量的想法，就是他们的想法呀，都是基于物质世界的部分，就是动物来源的都可以做的，但是他们缺乏那种使命感啊、价值感啊、赋予意义啊这些的，缺乏深度啊。如果用这一部分理想呢，用这一部分就实际上用的是灵魂的部分，灵智性的实相的部分。对，但是这些领导人他们都没有理想，没有用他们的灵魂去思考。
And they're saying that this is why we have poverty, divorce, war, and racial hatreds. They're saying this is why there's so much of this stuff, because so many people, they said 3/4 of the youth, right? Because I'm sure they were talking about this planet. They said so many people, they're thinking with their material minds and not their, let's just say, souls, for the sake of our understanding, like, you know, super material mind. And when you're thinking, you know, factually and materially, and you're leaving out the meaning and the morals and the insight and the principles and the ideals, you can't overcome poverty and divorce and war and racial hatreds. You don't have the wisdom and the knowing to get above and beyond all that.
Yes，嗯哼，对，那前头也提到3%的年轻人有可能都是用的是物质性的头脑，只想物质界的事情，那么对他们缺乏道德性的直觉、是远见哈，去拥有理想。那么这样的话呢，是没有理想的话，没有可能去真正的找到这个解决这些的问题啊，贫困啊、战争啊、种族仇恨这些问题的答案，没有可能找到答案的，没有这个智
So
慧和洞见去解决这些问题的。
so everyone is saying these days, I mean, so many people are saying these days that we're not having a battle between conservatives and liberals or left and right or progressives and Republicans or Democrats and libertarians or anything. Where so many people are saying, no, this is a battle between good and evil. Doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. What's going on right now is there's an actual factual spiritual war on this planet between the forces of good and the forces of evil. And I believe that. And okay, I'll let you translate.
对，有一种说法就是说，这现在的这个征战，不是说在于保守和自由派，或者是就是民主党跟共和党之争，而是事实上都是一个属灵的征战，属于善和恶之间的一个征战。
But this paragraph right here explains it so well, because when you're engaged and you're in the middle of this and you're trying to reason with people and explain to them that being hating white people doesn't make sense, or whatever your wars are bad, or whatever you're trying to tell people, you think it's a war of good and evil, because you can feel that, because there's so much evil happening. Children are disappearing, getting killed, people are dying. So, but what I'm saying is, you think, wait a minute, all these people on the wrong side, they're not all evil. They don't all want to hurt people. They don't all wish evil on, worship Satan, or, want to hurt anyone. Many of them think they're helping the world. And this paragraph explains it. It's not a war between good and evil as much as it's a war between the people who are thinking with their soul and the people who are thinking with their animal mind, their material mind. And that's why you can't reason with them. You can't explain things, because they're thinking with a different brain.
对。那他就说呢，实际上善恶之争呢，就是两部分人，一个是你是用动物性的性质头脑去思考，还是用灵魂去思考，这样的一个区别，你就是对跟用动物性头脑的人没有办法去讲理的，他们就是说不通的。
So it's like they're arguing with ideas and you're arguing with ideals.
对，他们是用想法、用头脑去争论，而你是用理想去争论。
And
那
they're two different languages.
这是两种语言，两种不同的语言。那个也许每一方都是认为他们是帮助这个世界变得更好的，那这是。
So they're saying, as long as people are thinking with this superabundance of ideas, but their poverty-stricken ideals, that is it says that is the explanation of poverty, divorce, war, and racial hatreds. But it's also saying you're not going to get rid of those things if you're thinking that way, because you could be in a war and you could fight and you could want to win or lose, or you could say these are the good guys, these are the bad. But it takes a soulful thinking to say, wait a minute, should we even be fighting? Is war even a good thing? Maybe there's a better way.
嗯哼，对，你可以就是认为你为正义作战，然后你去赢得一个战争，但是你也可以在灵魂层面去思考说，等一等，战争是必须的吗？就是如果你用那个动物性的思考，你去解决这些问题，那么可能就是这些问题的根源。
So this is really helps me to understand what's going on right now, because the good and evil thing, yes, it's true on one level, but on another level, all the people, they're not all evil. Some of them are evil, but the ones in charge, many of them are, but many of the people following along, I realized reading this, it's not that they're evil, it's that they literally only think with their material mind. They don't know how to think with their souls or with their super material mind. They're caught up in their ideas and they can't break out of that and go deeper into ideals.
对，那么就是那些的，那个为恶去添柴加火的人，那不见得是邪恶的，当然就领头的是邪恶的，但是跟随的人不见得是邪恶的，他们只是用他们的头脑，物质性的头脑去思考，他们被他们的思想所困住了。
Wow. The next the next paragraph, you're not even going to believe the next paragraph. It says, no, Heidi, it is evil. Heidi, it's evil. Okay. I'm gonna read,
11th and 12th.
yeah, I'm gonna read the next 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
So
Next 2, right?
3.
3.
And well, no. My I'm always wrong. So I got
Two.
it's 2, but in my book it's another page, so it looks like 3. Okay.
下
Next
面最
2.
后2段了。
Okay. This is the problem, says the book. This is the problem. If free will man is endowed with the powers of creativity in the inner man, which he is, then must we recognize that free will creativity embraces the potential of free will destructivity. So, well, I should just read and then talk about it. And when creativity is turned to destructivity, you are face to face with the devastation of evil and sin, oppression, war, and destruction. Evil is a partiality of creativity, which tends toward disintegration and eventual destruction. All conflict is evil in that it inhibits the creative function of the inner life. It is a species of civil war in the personality. Wow. Inner creativity contributes to the ennoblement of character through personality integration and selfhood unification. It is forever true. The past is unchangeable. Only the future can be changed by the ministry of the present creativity of the inner self. So this is the problem. Yeah, it's the age-old problem. It's why it's why so many people don't believe in God, because they look around the world and they see all this evil and destruction, and they say, how could there be a God? And the answer is, no, God gave you free will. You've made this mess. with it.
对，这就是为什么多人不信神，他们看看世界周围的世界，他们说怎么可能有神啊？神怎么会允许这样的破坏发生？但是事实是，就是神给了我们自由的意志，这个是我们自己造成了这些的发生。
So this, if free will has endowed, so it's the same for the world, that with all the chaos and evil in the world as it is for each one of us individually. That's what they're saying. If free
I
will,
haven't had you read through the Chinese translation part yet.
oh, okay, sorry.
郁金香，你可以把这两段的中文翻译再读一遍吗？是不是睡了？你要睡了，我就来读。
没有。
OK，那你来把这两段，最后这两段读完。
这就是问题所在。如果拥有自由意识的人，在内在世界被赋予了创造性的力量，那么我们必须认识到，自由意识的创造力包含了自由意志的破坏性潜能。当创造力转向破坏性时，你将面对邪恶和罪恶性的毁坏、压迫、战争和破坏。邪恶是创造力的偏颇，它趋于分裂和最终毁灭。所有冲突都是邪恶的，因为它抑制了内在生命的创造性作用。它是人格中的一种内战。内在创造力通过人格整合和自我合一，促进品质提升。永远真实的是，过去无法改变，只有通过内在自我当下的创造力来改变未来。
That's it.
Yep，谢谢。
So thank you. Shay Shay.
嗯 You're
So
welcome.
the only thing I know, right? And I don't even say it right. It's not, it's like
谢
Shay
谢，谢谢。
Shay, like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's good, good enough.
It's hard for us to say that. It feels funny for us to say Shay Shay.
Yeah,
We want to say Shay Shay.
in English, there's no that pronunciation, share at all. So you already did a good job. Yeah,
Yeah. Because we want to say, I really want to say Shay Shay.
谢谢，
Yeah,
谢。
that's natural for me, but you don't say it that way. I notice you say like Shay Shay, Shay Shay, something like that.
Yeah, very American Chinese. Yeah.
So this is a really, really heavy couple paragraphs here.
对，这是
Because-
很重的两段话。
And I love the way they started with, they know it's heavy. They started with, this is the problem. They're saying, we've got a real problem here.
对，他这个就是引起注意，就是这就是问题所在，就是很重的话，这样。
They recognize that this is a tough one for everyone to swallow.
对，这个是每个人都很难吞咽的。
Now, the other interesting thing, I mean, one of the many interesting things about these last two paragraphs is, we always use the word creativity, and, we all know it means to create, but you rarely see it paired with destructivity, right? The opposite, like no one talks about destructivity.
嗯哼， 呀，就是我们往往嘛，把这个可创造性呢，就是当成很正面的去看待，往往，很少去把它跟破坏性，放在一起。
We never talk about the opposite of creativity.
我们往往就是把这个创造性的反面去想它的
But
反面。
but we know that this world is made of opposites, and we know that there's no such thing as stasis or stagnation. Something's always happening. You can't sit on the fence for very long. You're either going forward or you're going backwards. You're either getting healthier or you're getting sicker. You're either getting more rejuvenated or more tired. We know that that's how life is. So it makes sense that if you're not being creative, you're being destructive. But no one ever says that. This is the first time I've ever seen it said.
对，我们这世界就是由两极构成的，没有这静态的。如果是你不能骑在那个篱笆上不动太久，你不是变得更健康，就是变得更不健康；不是变得你更有精力，就是变得很疲惫。那个生命其实就是由两头就这样的。构成的一个运动，但是我们就是很少会读到这个创造力跟这个破坏力放在一起。
Everything has to have an opposite to have value, because if it didn't have the opposite, I mean, I think it's some kind of frequency energy balance thing. But if it didn't have the opposite, it wouldn't have the same meaning.
对，那生命就是有两头儿啊，有这个对立啊，才有价值。就是能量守恒，它是在动态当中的。
I was listening to one of my near-death experience stories yesterday, and this the it was celestial being. It was God or Jesus or an angel or someone told the lady who, she had died and gone to heaven, and she said, why is there so much sadness in the world, or something like that? And they said, if there wasn't any sadness, you have to have sadness here in order to appreciate and understand joy. And that really does make sense.
对，那我就是昨天看到一个濒死体验的录像，那么一个灵界存有对一个嗯妇女说，对一个妇女就问她为什么世界这么多的悲伤，然后她就灵界存有跟她说，如果没有悲伤，你就不能珍赏和理解这个快乐。
How would you even know you were happy if you hadn't been sad?
如果没有悲伤过，你怎么知道你是在一个很快乐、喜乐的状态呢？
Let alone really appreciate your happiness.
那么你也不会学习珍赏你的幸福了。
So I never realized that if you're not using the creativity of your inner mind, you end up destroying. You have to, what they're saying here is that you have to either create or destroy. One or the other you're going to do one or the other.
对，你就用我们的意志，你用我们的头脑，你不是在创造，你就是在破坏。
So they're just saying that it's just logical. If you have the power, the free will, the option, the ability to create, then you also have to have the ability not to create.
对，你有这个自由意志，有这个能力去就是选择你是你去创造，或者你也可以选择不去创造。
But what we didn't know and what they're telling us is if you're not creating, you're using your free will to destroy.
嗯，对，你如果选择不去创造，其实你就用你的自由意志在破坏。
I think that's because you have an inner urge to create, just like you have an inner urge to know God and to be good and to find truth. And I think that when you resist that, you have to consciously resist it, not to be moved in that direction. And when you consciously resist it, that's the beginning of evil. I think that's what they're saying.
Yeah，那么你有一个内在的这种的冲动，要去创造，要去知道神，要去发现真理。如果你反对就是阻碍这样的一个冲动，那么你就相当于这种能量就往另外一个方向去了。
So it's not just, oh, these people are being creative and these people just aren't doing anything. That's kind of what I thought a minute ago when I said, oh, it's not evil, it's just material thinking. It's not. These people are choosing to be creative and these people just aren't doing anything. It's deeper than that. It's these people are appreciating and making use of this incredibly wonderful gift they were given, and these people are rejecting it.
对。那么几分钟以前，我就是刚刚想到啊，有些人就是用创造性图案，有些人就是不用啊，他就是不用而已。但是呢，诶但是他就是那个意义可能比这个还要更深刻。那么用这个物质性思考方式的人，他们就是拒绝使用上天给他们的难以置信的礼物。
And that action of rejecting the good, the creative, the goodness in the universe, God's gift to you, that act of rejecting it, turning your back on good, is actually an evil act.
就是对好的事物背朝好的食物，就是拒绝好的食物，其实就是一种邪恶。
They're saying we have to recognize that free will creativity embraces the potential of destructivity. So that's God knows when he gives us free will. That's the whole point. It might go either way. The fact that it's up to us means it can be good or it can be evil. It's our choice.
对，这创造力是用来创造还是毁坏，是我们的个人意志决定的。
So it says here, and when creativity is turned to destructivity, you are face to face with the devastation of evil and sin, oppression, war, and destruction, which is what we're seeing all around us.
对，创造力转向另外一个方向，那就是破坏力嘛，就是压迫、战争和破坏这些现象的根源。
It's interesting the way they word it because they don't say when you choose to be destructive. They say this is the solitary messenger, right? He says when creativity is turned to destructivity, you are face to face with. So they're saying you're not given destructivity, you're given creativity. It's there right in front of you. there for the asking. Your mind is creative. Your soul is creative. The God inside your mind is creative. So all the creativity is right there. It's the default. That you don't come with a destructive mind. So when they say when it's turned to destructivity, when you consciously change the channel, turn it around, that's what they're saying. They're saying they're not saying you choose. You're not being given, you can be creative or you can be destructive. It's up to you. No, they're saying, here's all the creativity in the world. It's right here for you. And you're saying no. And you turn it into something destructive. You take something good and you turn it into something bad. Just like eugenics. That's what they did with eugenics. They took something that was supposed to help mankind and they turned it into something bad. It's the same thing. It wasn't bad to begin with. They turned it into something bad.
对，他就说这个头脑是创造性的，灵魂是创造性的，我们的就是思想调整者，我们内里的灵性也是创造性的，这个是给你的，都是给你的礼物。但是呢，你就是如果改换了频道，那么就这些的创造性的东西就被用来做这个破坏性的这些的行动和结果。就比如那个优生学，本来是用来让你做好事的，但是你把它用来做坏事了。
These two paragraphs are so rich. There's so much packed in them. So then it says, so when creativity is turned to destructivity, you are face to face with the devastation of evil and sin, oppression, war, and destruction. So now they're not saying war is evil, oppression, destruction is evil. They're saying when you turn creativity to destruction, you're face to face. They're saying it's the result. They're saying evil, devastation. They're saying oppression, war, and destruction are the result of evil and sin. That's what happens when you reject creativity. You end up with that. That's what they're saying.
对，当我们拒绝创造性的时候呢，就是面临那些的邪恶、罪恶性的毁坏，这个压迫啊、战争啊、破坏都是这个结果，就是创造力转向破坏性的结果。
They're saying when you take creativity and you twist it around and make it ugly, when you turn it into destructivity, you're gonna end up with oppression, war, and destruction. That's what's gonna happen to you. You're going to embrace evil and sin, and you're going to end up with oppression, war, and destruction. So they're not saying those things are evil. They're saying that they're the product of evil. That's what you get when you're evil.
对，又拥抱邪恶、罪恶，对，那这个就是压迫、战争和破坏，就是结果。
So let's see
他
what it
们
says.
本身不是恶，他们是恶的结果。
So let's see what the next one is. Evil is a partiality of creativity, which tends toward disintegration and eventual destruction. All conflict is evil in that it inhibits the creative function of the inner life. It is a species of civil war in the personality. So evil is a partiality of, so here they're saying it's like you don't accept the whole creativity. You just take, like, you kind of distort it. It's a partiality of it. It's like they're saying your mind is creative. The creativity is there, but now you're taking like a piece of it and distorting it. You're only using a piece of it instead of the whole full gift that you're being offered. And that they're telling us what evil is. Evil is a partiality of creation. So evil is not creative. It may have a little part of creativity, but it's focusing on disintegration and destruction rather than integration and creation.
对，他就说邪恶，他就是只是用了一部分的创造力，而不是用那个创造力，就是他本来是，给你的一个礼物，全部的礼物，但是邪恶他只用了创造力的一点，所以说一部分，所以它是一个偏颇，是创造力的偏颇的应用。那么这种偏颇的应用就会去分裂和最终的毁灭。
So they're saying that it's like another way of looking at it. When they say evil is a partiality of creativity, which tends toward, they're saying, yeah, you can be creative and create destruction. You can be creative and create disintegration. So it's like you can take it and use it the wrong way. It's still your free will. It's still there. It's all you have, this force in there. And now you can take it and do harm with it. That's what they're saying. That's what evil is.
对，那个力还在那，就是你可以在创造分裂、创造毁灭方面非常的有创造性。
It's like abuse. It's like you're abusing the creativity. So
就是滥用那个创造力。
because it says evil is a partiality of creativity which tends toward disintegration and eventual destruction. So you're not necessarily trying to destroy it all at once. You're just sort of chipping away at it, abusing it, taking advantage of it, ignoring it. You're disintegrating the creativity in your mind, and then that eventually turns to destruction. Disintegration leads to destruction. You eventually just destroy it completely.
对，你不是说就是有意要去破坏，你就是相当于你忽视了，不去用那个好的方面，那么这个最终来讲，它就是结果就是相当于那个扭曲的应用，就是造成毁灭和分裂的。
And then the last sentence here on this paragraph is all conflict. This is very interesting because you never hear anyone else say this. All conflict is evil in that it inhibits the creative function of the inner life. It is a species of civil war in the personality. And I believe that so much because conflict, every cell in my body gets upset when I'm around conflict. I don't mind a certain argument or debate but real conflict, like the negative energy, like that, you can't be creative when you're involved in conflict. It's not possible. That's what they're saying. They're saying it's evil. Conflict is evil because it inhibits the creative function of the inner life. Like the minute you're around a conflict, the creative function, it doesn't function. Creativity won't function. It won't blossom. It won't bloom. You can't have a good creative idea in a war zone. You can't, or when someone's fighting with you, because that negative energy inhibits the creativity. It stops it. It's like putting poison on a plant. It keeps it from growing.
他就说这个，冲突是邪恶的，对吧？你如果内在不光是跟外部，你跟你内在如果有冲突，也是抑制这个 内在生命的创造性的作用，所以冲突就是邪恶的，就像阻止一个花的盛开，那么或者把这个毒药放到植物上，这样的话阻止它的成长，那么就不是一种创造性的冲突，就不是创造性的。
So they're telling us to avoid conflict because it's saying all conflict is evil in that it inhibits the creative function of the inner life. It is a species of civil war in the personality. So whoops, I'm stuttering again.
人格就是里边如果是有这种征战，有这种矛盾冲突，他就没有办法就有那个，因为对创造力大概只有在合一当中才能够充分的发挥。对，
So when you're involved in conflict, you're at war with your own creative inner being. You're fighting yourself. That's what they're saying. You can't the highest part of you, your best nature cannot flourish or even think clearly. You're fighting yourself. You're at civil war in your own mind.
对，那这里边自己跟自己打仗有这个冲突的话，对，没有办法思考的很清楚，你当然也没有办法充分的发挥你的创造力。
And that explains why I keep telling everyone when they have conflict, when they complain to me about bad people or bad situations, or I always say, just focus on the frequency. Just keep a high frequency. Don't, if any person lowers your frequency, if a situation lowers your frequency, just get out of there. Because that's what conflict is. It's when you have a lower frequency that's disintegrating your higher frequency, because a creativity is the highest frequency, a very high frequency. You know, like I'm always talking about high frequencies like gratitude and forgiveness. These are but creativity's I always add another one, right? I guess there's a few high ones, because creativity and worship, gratitude, worship, forgiveness, creativity, they're all very high frequencies, and they lead to health, they lead to happiness, they lead to God, they lead to being a better person. But conflict is a lower frequency, and that's regret. That's holding a grudge, not forgiving someone. That's being bitter, that's being jealous, that's holding on to anger. All those things are lower frequencies that cause conflict inside your own mind.
当就是有人对我抱怨呐、那人多坏啊什么的，我总是鼓励他们说要保持一个比较高的频率。如果你那个有冲突的话，你没有办法整合，你是一个分裂的状态。感恩和宽宥和敬拜都是属于高的频率，可以导向健康和幸福满足。嗯如果是你有遗憾呢，你总是对人怀恨呢，嗯愤恨啊、嫉妒啊、愤怒啊，这些都是比较低的频率，就是比较冲突的。
So they're saying two things here. One is they're saying that you can use your free will to be destructive instead of creative, and that's evil, and it leads to these horrible things in the world. But the other is, even when you don't choose to be destructive, you still have to be careful, because you even have to avoid conflict, because that will also hurt your creativity. You know, it may not lead to war and destruction and oppression, but it's not going to lead you anywhere good.
对，不光是要避免那个破坏，还要避免，甚至这个冲突都要去避免。
In other words, we're never completely at peace with our creative inner world. We're always pushing back a little. There's always a little struggle going on there. You know, we're not perfect yet. We're not completely aligned with our thought adjuster yet. So we have to just pay close attention to that and make sure there's no conflict in our own minds. Let's focus on the conflicts around us and see how we can deal with those and leave them out of our minds.
至少我们就是，当然我们，还做不到完全跟像调整者保持一致，但是要就是检查我们的，嗯、心智、头脑，至少就是我们自己的心智里边要减少冲突。对你外边的冲突没有办法完全的控制，但至少我们跟自己要有这个和平。
And then it's ending on a little bit of a happier note, because that's pretty dark stuff. But it's ending on a little bit of a reassuring note, and it's saying inner creativity contributes to ennoblement of character through personality integration and selfhood unification. So that's if you don't let it disintegrate, you know, if you nourish it and cherish it and honor it, it'll lead to ennoblement of character, and your personality will become more integrated and your self will be more unified. They're talking about the psychic circles there. That's how you reach your psychic circles, through personality integration and selfhood unification. That's becoming a more balanced whole person.
对，像第一句这个最后一段的第一句，内在创造力通过人格整合和自我的合一，促进品格的提升。对，至少我们自己要珍赏自己。达到这个心灵圆圈儿，这个政府心灵圆圈儿也是强调一个平衡的人格，合一的整合的人格。
And they say in the last sentence, it is forever true. The past is unchangeable. Only the future can be changed by the ministry of the present creativity of the inner self. So when you think about that, it's pretty interesting, because in the whole 2,000-page book, the only thing they ever say is unchangeable that I can remember is God. And personality. They say which is a gift of God. They say God is changeless. He is who he is. Not the supreme God is changing, but the God, the Father God. And your personality, they say, doesn't change. Now your character changes and you become more mature and unified. And it says here, it says, personality integration and selfhood unification. So your personality can become more integrated with these other aspects of yourself. But your personality itself, you are who you are, whether you're age 2 or age 102, or whether you're in a Morancha world or whether you're in this world. You're going to be Ricky, I'm going to be Heidi, and that's not going to change. But there's not too many things in this book that they say don't change, and they say the past is unchangeable. So we all know that, but we know it in a material world, we know it, but they're saying on every level, even in the spiritual worlds, the past is done. It's written. It's over. You can't change it.
约翰夏之书很少有提到不变的，那么神是不变的，我们的人格的身份也是不变的。但是我们的品格可以改变，我们可以变得更整合。对，但是这个地方也提到过去无法改变。
And then they say only the future can be changed, and the future, you change the future. So it's funny that you can change the future, because how do you change the future? I mean, the future isn't written yet, right? How do you change something that's not written yet?
那只有通过内在自我当下的创造力来改变未来。he questioned, she questioned, you questioned. How do you change the future? But it's
Yeah.
kind of create a future. It's not
Yeah,
to
yeah.
modify.
Yeah, but I think
Mm. To
I
be
think in a
changed.
way, I think
That means if you don't, my cat is calling the door, so letting him in. He's meowing outside my door.
see, now there's two of us that have these same issues.
Yeah. So that means if you don't change your current,
Yes,
yourself, this moment, your future is going to be the same as the past, only through
I think so
changing
too.
your
Yeah,
inner life
yeah, they're
and
saying, yeah, because if you
through the
don't,
creativity, your future will be different.
it's up to you to change it. Otherwise, it's just gonna just go its own direction. It's gonna follow the momentum, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to keep going the way it's going. Everything's on a course. It's not stagnant. Nothing's stagnant. So it's moving along, but
Yeah.
you can change it. But the only way you can change it is by what you're doing today. And they're saying in your inner self, the ministry of the present creativity of the inner self. This is the only time in the book where they talk so much about creativity. I mean, they do talk about art and but they're really talking about creativity a lot in this section.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's the focus, inner
Mm-hmm.
creativity.
Yeah.
But
Inner creativity. Yeah.
but when you think of it, God is the creator, right?
Yeah.
So and God lives in our minds, and we are all potentially partial gods, because we're going to merge with God inside us. So it makes sense that we would be creators.
对，我们内我就是富有创造力的，因为那个是神住在我们的内我嘛，那就是我们跟他一样是有这个创造力的。
So this is worth thinking about, because basically they're saying you can change the future. It's in your hands. You create your own future.
对，你的未来掌握在你的手里，你可以创造你的未来。
That's your superpower.
是你的超级能力。
Can't change the past. You can change the way you look at the past.
过去无法改变，但是你可以改变对过去的一个看法。
That's what we were trying to do last week when we were talking about our regrets.
对，这是我们上星期也讨论的，怎么样对待我们生命当中的遗憾。
So when you change the way you look at the past, you can change the way you feel in the present, and that will affect your future.
对，你可以改变对现在你改变了对过去的想法和感受，你就来改变了未来。
I'm thinking about this because I'm thinking, what can't you change the past? Why did God create a reality where we can't change the past? And then I'm thinking, because we can change the way we look at it, we can keep learning from it.
对，改变我们的看法，相当于就是对，就从里边就学习到了东西。
It's like reading a good book again or seeing a good movie again. You get all the stuff that you didn't get the first time. So looking at your past can be like that. You can get a whole new stories when you look at it differently, or when you're in a different place than you were when you were doing it. Now you're looking at it and you're like a different person.
对，就像重读一本好书，那可能就是看法不同了，可能感受也不一样了。
Because like I was talking about, one of my regrets is like I was one person, so I made this mistake. Then later I was another person and I realized it was a mistake. Then later I was another person and I realized it was a huge mistake that I really regretted. and then
嗯
and then later, which was last week, I was another person and I realized that I know what's going to happen. I don't even know if it was a mistake. Maybe it was meant to be. Maybe it's all going to work out perfectly. So that's
嗯。
another person looking at it.
对，就是人在不同的时期对过去发生的事情会有不同的解读嘛。一个有的时候回头一看，有可能是我认为某一个行为决定是一个错误，非常的遗憾。但是呢，再往前，也许我会发现，哎，我的遗呃遗憾本身就是一个很大的错误，不应该遗憾。然后再往前呢，然后就是会觉得我根本就不能够确定它是一个错误，也许就是本来事情就应该这么发生的。Yeah, so we are all making progress in perspectives. We keep upgrading our understanding.
Yes. So that's another insight, because that's one more reason not to get hung up on those regrets, which we discovered were really not forgiving ourselves, because because we were one person when we did it, then we were one person when we regretted it, then we were one person when we realized it was a huge mistake, then we were one person when we realized maybe it wasn't so bad after all. That's already 4 different viewpoints about that one thing we did. 4 different ways of looking at it already, which means there'll be more. It means that we're going to keep growing, broadening our perspective, and getting wiser, and we'll always look at these things differently. So why get hung up on how we're looking at it right now?
嗯，对。所以呢，就是有理由，就是说原谅我们自己。那么现在为止，同一件事，我已经有了4种的观点，不同的观点。随着我继续的扩展我的视角，我可能就是又说明可能还有更多的这个观点对同一件事。所以我们都为什么一定要认为我现在坚持的观点是正确的呢？
So last week, what we discovered about regrets was so profound for me, because I really had never thought of it that way. I didn't even think it was bad. I thought it was kind of good to have these regrets. I thought it was nice, very humble. That I didn't think I knew I made these big mistakes and I felt bad. I was very humble. But when we realized that, no, it's a low frequency and you're not forgiving yourself. You're angry at yourself. You're mad at yourself. You're sad. These aren't good frequencies. These aren't helping you or the world in any way. And when we discovered this now, yesterday, one of my very best friend calls me. She's 70 years old, and she tells me that she's been depressed, and she spent 3 days very depressed because she was thinking maybe she should have done something in her 50 years ago that she didn't do to help her mother or this or that, and it was so helpful that we had just made that discovery, because I was able to tell her, you're not forgiving yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You did what you did back then. You did the best you could. You can't change that. And maybe it wouldn't have been the way you think it would. Maybe if you had stayed there with your mother, it would have been horrible. Maybe she would have not wanted you to be there with her. She would have felt guilty you weren't living your life. A million things. That's the what if game, right? What if?
Yeah.
What if you had stayed and things were even worse? What if? The what if game always works. But
Yeah. Hold on.
yes.
That's too long. Yeah，就是因为我们最近讨论关于遗憾的问题哈，对这个问题有更深入的思考。那么以前呢，我觉得好啊，是很好的事情。你如果有遗憾，说明你认识到错误了啊，这说明我很谦虚啊。但是呢，现在我觉得不是这样，你就是变得很那个。很烦躁，很悲伤，因为认识，觉得自己不够好啊，没有帮助这个世界啊。昨天一个70多岁的朋友打电话，他很沮丧，他很后悔，觉得50年前他不应该离开他的妈妈，然后应该更多的帮助他的母亲。那么我就跟他讲，你已经做了你当时能够做的最好的选择。那么也许你的母亲根本就那时候不愿意你跟他待在一起，或者他就是说引导他做那个如果怎么样，那个小的游戏，就是让他不要去集中注意力在自己没有做到、没有实现的事情上，而就是能够原谅、接纳所有的已经发生的。对。
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's hard to kind of disrupt the thinking, when you talk. Yes, I
I
understand.
forget that you have to translate.
Because you are so focused on making the story flow well. I understand. Yeah.
That's when I start stuttering. When I think so much about what I'm saying, I notice that's
Your
when I start.
language always, slower than your thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm not hearing my voice. I'm just so caught up in my thoughts. I'm not even hearing that I'm like stuttering like crazy.
But anytime you emphasize that, anytime you accept what you are, what you have done, you wholly embrace yourself and love yourself like God loves us unconditionally.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you mentioned that you comfort an old lady
Yes, my
who are
friend.
depressed.
Yes, because of what we discovered last week. It was so helpful. It really helped her a lot. It got her, and then of course I said, next time that happens, call me right away, because we're not supposed to be alone when we have those thoughts. I could snap you out of that so fast, which is true.
对，他跟那个朋友就说对他就是开导他，就是好像对他很有帮助。他就说下一次你再有这种的想法，马上给我打电话。对，你没有必要就是在这种情绪当中就去 独自咀嚼这个苦水。对，
No, because when we're depressed, we don't want to call people we love. We don't. She said, I didn't want to make you depressed. I said, no, I would make you happy.
那个朋友担心说，哎，给他打电话，自己心情沮丧的时候给他打电话，会让他也沮丧。他说不是的，不是的，你这样，就是使我感到很幸福的。
Especially when you're our age, I said, look, we're too old. We have to get it together.
嗯哼，他说你看，我们都变老了，我们是应该在一起的，一定要一起面对，一起去互相的支持。
We have to figure things out. We don't have much time left.
Well, at any age, we all need companion. We all need this rapport. Yeah, we needed this.
Yeah, well, the sooner, the sooner you do all this stuff, the better, because then you'll be way ahead of me when you're my age. You'll have figured all this stuff out already. You can move on to the next thing.
他说你越在早年就是把这些都想开了，你就是对，在这个更晚年的时候越少一些遗憾。Yeah, it's easier, when we get older, we recall the past events more vividly. So that's why the regrets might filter in. So that's important to have a good perspective or nurture a good perspective when we are younger. Yeah.
No, it's incredibly helpful because when you get old, it's very easy to get, to get obsessed with regrets and to start living in the past and going over things and wishing this and wishing that. And yeah, it's very easy when you're old to fall into that because you're looking back more. When you're young, you're looking forward more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah，他就说是非常重要的。因为你年纪大了之后，很容易被过去的一些的事情所那个纠结，对，就是经常会有遗憾，就是往后看，往以前看的比较多。年轻的时候你往前看，
So
年纪
yeah,
大了以后往后边看的比较多。对，
so the sooner you all, figure this stuff out, the better you can sail into your old age with no regrets, no anxiety, and no civil wars in your brain.
嗯哼。Yeah，你越早把这东西个想清楚了，你越就是说不容易在年老的时候陷入焦虑啊、不安呐、这种自毁啊，在内里发动这个内战。
I'll tell you another regret I had. I don't think I'm having many regrets after our conversation, but another regret I had was that I discovered the Urantia book when I was 16 and it shaped my whole life. It guided me. It helped me more than I can say. I think I owe so much to this book for telling me everything I wanted to know, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll say the rest.
嗯，他说他从16岁就知道这本书，这本书相当于就是塑形了他的整个的生命，他欠这本书很多。
But I did not discover the law of attraction until about 5 years ago.
但是他好像不知道吸引力法则，一直到5年前。
And I don't know why, because I was always interested in spiritual things. And I knew, I read the Tao and the I Ching and, Rumi, the poet, the Persian poet Rumi, and, lots of things in philosophy. And, I read, the famous self-help guys. I don't know how I somehow missed the law of attraction all my life. I just missed it.
这个他就是研究了一些道家的著作啦，读了易经啦，还读了个鲁米的诗啦，一些的其他的哲学著作啦。 自我帮助的书了，但是很奇怪，他就是把吸引力法则的这些的，就是没有读到。
And when I finally found it, just, stumbled across it 5 years ago, it completely changed my life.
当他就是5年前接触到他的时候，这个他相当于彻底改变了他的生命。
And that's why I'm trying to not only study the Urantia book with you wonderful Urantia book readers, but I'm also trying to find ways as we go to apply the teachings to our life. I get that from the law of attraction, because that's what the law of attraction showed me. Well, just what we read about just now. You create your life. You're responsible. You can be happy. It's up to you. The Urantia book, I mean, this section just did tell us pretty much, but it doesn't give you as much practical advice how to be happy every day. It's, if you read into it, you should figure it out. But the law of attraction is very practical.
对，这就是为什么读这本书的时候呢，我是希望大家怎么样能把这个书的教导能够在生活当中实践出来。那我们也刚刚读到说，我们创造我们自己的生活，但是这个书也没有给我们很实践性的建议，怎么样去创造生活，但是就是吸引力法则大概有这样一些具体的建议。
So that's why I'm trying so hard to not just read the book, but to see how we can apply it to our own minds, our own hearts, our own souls, our own relationships to God. To take what it's telling us and say, okay, how do I make this work for me?
对，要经常思考怎么样把这本书的教导能够付诸实践，改善我自己的生命。
So, so it's telling us about the thought adjusters, and I'm trying to say, well, how do I talk to my thought adjuster? How do I let him in? How do I open that door? How do I be guided? Because if this book can not only do everything it did for me, guide me and inspire me and answer my questions, but also do what the law of attraction did, which is give me practical hands-on help in how to do it, how to become a more balanced person, how to become a kinder person, how to become a happier person, how to take control of my life, how to create the life I want to live.
对对，就是嗯，敞开心灵，就是愿意被指导，然后这是一方面，另外一方面用吸引力法则给一些的比较实践的，可以马上应用的一些的指导，那就是让我成为更平衡的，然后对，成为更平衡的这么一个人格，然后来掌控我的人生。
Because I think all the answers to those questions are in this book, but you have to look a little deeper to dig them out and to say, okay, how can we apply this? Because I do think the answers are here, and the law of attraction. Sometimes a lot of people who believe aren't even spiritual. They don't even believe in God. They just want to make money or get the house they want or the beautiful wife they want, or the car they want, or and it works for that stuff too, but that's not, so they have all that, but that's not what it's really about. So I want to take the practical application, part of the law of attraction, the positive thinking, responsibility for your life, and then the truth and the values and the information in the Urantia book can kind of combine it into one thing, so that you can not just read the book and be wiser, but also, reach your psychic circles, like become a more whole, balanced, and happier person.
当然有一些人他就把那个吸引力法则用来，显化他们想要的房子啊、美丽的太太啦、好车啦。但是呢，我是希望能够把这个东西应用在灵性的修行方面。月亮下之说把一些给了一些很多问题的答案，但是呢，我们可以用吸引力法则，就是更实践性的应用到我们的生命当中，正面的思维啦，对自己的生活负全责啦，把这些都整合起来，变得更不单是就是说知见方面更明智，那么也能够达到就征服心灵圆圈，然后成为一个很平衡也幸福喜乐的人。
And the Urantia book tells you everything you need to know. It's right in this section we just read. It's telling us, but you just have to dig a little deeper to figure out how to apply it to your life, how to let it speak to you, and not just your intellect, but to your whole being, your soul. And I'll let you translate that.
就是这个让下之说，就是很多问题给了基本的答案，你还要继续深挖。那怎么样这个东西，对你说话怎么样？你的全人能够这个对整合你的全人，就是。
So this section we just read was called the inner life.
对，这个部分，我们这个题目叫内在生命，内在的生命。
And one of the main messages of this section was that the inner life controls your life, is your life, and your inner life controls the world. It controls wars, suppression, oppression, destruction. Everything they're saying starts with the inner life. They're saying that all meaning, all value, the purpose of your life, what you do with your life, how you affect the world, it all starts with the inner life, your creative inner mind, which you have the free will to do what you want with. So it's basically telling you right there, it's up to you. You control your world. You're the creator. You make a choice. You make a decision. You're either going to be godly, or you're going to be evil. That's what it's saying.
对，那么这章的主要的信息呢，就是你是可以掌控自己的生活的，通过内里生命来掌控你自己的生命、自己的生活，然后从而来改变世界啊，来就是你的内在的头脑是有创造性的，你可以用它来创造更属灵、更神性的实相。
It says you can reject, you can use your free will to reject your creative inner mind, in which case you will be evil, and that is a sin, and all bad, very bad things will happen. That's one choice.
可以用你的自由意志去拒绝神啊，那么这个就是一切的邪恶、丑恶的一个根源。
And then it says you can kind of partially reject it and kind of disintegrate, let it disintegrate a little bit, and get involved in all these conflicts all the time. And then And then it says you'll just have a civil war in your brain. You'll have a civil war inside you.
或者你部分的拒绝，然后造成一些分裂啊，造成一些冲突啊，造成你内里的一个人格的内在的内战。
So obviously, there's a third option, and that is just stay away from conflict. Don't
那
read,
当然还有第三种的选择，就是远离这个冲突。
don't reject the creative inner being that you've been given.
对，不要拒绝这个内在的生命给你的这个内在的生命。
Put some order and some structure in in your inner mind, in the way you're thinking inside there.
对，更有这个规划性的、组织性的去应用这个礼物。
And then be king of your castle and be as creative as you want and make great things.
对，做你的城堡的国王，就是建设性的创造你的实相。
And if war and oppression and destruction come from rejecting creativity, what comes from accepting and embracing creativity? Well, just the opposite. It would be love, a creative world, building wonderful things. You know, it says racial hatred comes from that, no hatred. So that's going to be the result. You're going to change you're going to have no civil war in your mind, but you'll also create peace on earth and goodwill to men.
对，如果是拒绝神类造成的战争啊、压迫呀和毁坏，那么如果你拥抱接纳内在的生命，那么就是产生相反的结果，就更有爱的、更绚丽的现实。这个是我们的选择。
If you have no conflict in your mind, no civil war in there, no conflict, then you're not going to see conflict out in the world. You're not going to make conflict. I mean, you know me, I'm a troublemaker, so I always have to make a little, but you'll pretty much avoid conflict. You won't be the one starting wars. You won't be the one with racial hatred. You won't be the one oppressing people. And so that's our job. That's how we make the world. That's how we save the world.
如果我们内在没有冲突，那么也不会在外在产生冲突，造出这个种族仇恨。我们就拯救了世界。Yeah,
Now,
inner civil war is, kind of project to the outer world, cause the conflicts in the world.
no, that's what they're saying. It's just the outer world is just a reflection of what's going on in your brain, in your, not brain, in your mind, in your
Yeah,
inner
对，
being.
就是外界的选项都是我们内在的一种投射和吸引。对，这是吸引力法则。
And
That's the law of
and
attraction.
I was going to say that's exactly the law of attraction right there. That is the law of attraction.
对，这个那就跟这个心理法则是完全相符的，这一节的内容。
The law of attraction is you attract what you put out.
对
The energy you're sending out is the same energy you'll attract.
对你这发出去的能量的频率，相当于吸引同样的品质的东西到你的实相当中。
When you're attacking your own creative inner self, you can't love yourself, right? And if you can't love yourself, you can't love other people.
对，如果你只那个攻击你的内在的自我，那么你没有办法爱自己，你也没有办法爱别人。
So when we attack and reject our creative self, our creative inner self, we're rejecting God, because God is the ultimate creator and he lives inside our mind, and he's the one who's giving us this creativity, our personality, our free will. So God is in our mind, living with us, and he's a part of us. He's the highest part of us. And so we're rejecting the highest part of us. Of course, that's a civil war in your mind.
对啊，对，如果我们拒绝创造性的自我，那么这个神他是，活在我们里边的，然后在我们的心智当中是高我的部分。对，我们如果是拒绝那个创造性的自我，就是拒绝神。
And it's the worst kind of civil war.
那个就
Because
是最坏的、最差的、最糟糕的内战。
because God is our Father. So we're rejecting and attacking our own Father, the one who created us. And you can't survive that. You can't and that's why it's so evil. That's why it's evil. You can't survive that. No one can survive that kind of evil.
对，那么就是神是我们的父，我们的源头呢，可创造我们的。如果是这样的，发生这样的内战，我们不能够，不可能存活，所以这个是很邪恶的。
So on that happy note,
哦，有一个问，there is a question in the note in the chat window.
okay, let's see. All right. It's in Chinese.
林芝 asked what phenomena or indication indicate the human being or the individual does not want to cooperate with
with the
thought
creative.
adjuster and does not want to survive, attain
Well,
survival.
well, first of all, I mean, there's some obvious ones, like if they say they're an atheist, if they say there is no God, that's an obvious rejection.
那如果他说他不信神，他是一个无神论者，这个是很明显的一个拒绝。
But there's two kinds of atheists. There's atheists who have really decided to reject God, and they don't want any part of God. They don't want, I mean, it's funny because this section just told us all of our thinking, all of our actions, all of it exists in our inner mind, which is not material. So these people, using the part of their mind that is not material, decide that there is no God because he's not material. You realize how ironic that is?
实际上那些无神论者哈，他们用他们的头脑决定他们不信神，那么实际上他们的头脑也不是物质性的，他们就是完全信物质性，但是实际上他们用来做这个判断的那部分，实际上并不是物质性。
But then there's another kind of atheist, and when I know someone and they say they're an atheist, but I know them enough to know that their heart is good, I ask them, I say, do you really not believe in God, or are you just mad at God?
还有另外一种宣称他们不信神的，那么我是了解他们，我知道他们的心是很好的，那么我就会反问他们说：你是真的不信神呢，还是你就是对神比较失望？
And when I've asked people this, they've told me, yeah, they've said they never thought of it that way, but they said, yeah, I guess I am mad at God. They admit that they're mad at God. So they're
嗯
saying they don't believe in God because they're mad at him. That's not a real atheist.
嗯，然后他们往往就会承认说，实际上他们就是对神比较失望。他们这类人，他们不是真正的无神论者。
It's natural, it's understandable to be mad at God when you look around and you see all this evil and hatred and suppression and children being abused. It's very understandable that people could get mad at God. And it takes a lot of work to understand the whole thing about free will and how that actually helps us, and how it's a gift and how we're the ones who screwed up the world, not God. It's a process you have to go through.
Yeah，所以我才是那个，你看，像看到那么多的罪恶啊，是仇恨啊，孩子被虐待啦，这些的现象很难，不去对神升起一种怨恨，但是是在人类的自由意志的情况下，有可能现实就是有可能被扭曲的破坏力的表达，就是发生了世界上这些丑恶的现象。
Reading and believing the Urantia book really helps the kind of people who would be mad at God, because it explains that this is not a typical planet. This is a rebellion planet. Everything went wrong here. The prince defaulted. Adam and Eve defaulted. It's like worst case scenario. We're 1 in a million worlds in terms of how bad it is. So it helps you understand it's not God's fault. Things just went wrong because he gave us so much leeway. He let the princes do things their way. He let people have free will. So sometimes, once in a while, everything goes wrong. But in the end, only good comes from it. So that's why if people are mad at God, the Urantia book can be very helpful for understanding why this world is so messed up.
对，那么只读和相信《预染下之书》的人，都会了解到我们的星球不是一个一般的星球，就是我们的行星王子背叛，然后就是犯错误，然后亚当夏娃我们的祖先也犯错误，那么100万年前发生的，就是很多的事情都不正常，就是嗯。出轨了。那个神给我们就是很大的空间，让我们允许我们犯错误，允许自由意志来再开展。那虽然很多事情都不是很正常，现在来讲，但是最终只有好的结果从这里边诞生。
If you're reading the Urantia book and and listening to me, you're probably not rejecting God.
如果你是读《预染下之书》，你听我讲，那么基本上来讲，你不是那种的，拒绝神的。
But if you're not sure, then you have to look into your heart and feel your heart and feel, do you deep inside, do you want to know God? Do you want to find God? Do you want to be like God? Do you want to be friends with God? Do you want to, do you want God to help you? Any of the above. If you have any of those feelings, even a little bit, then you're not rejecting God.
对，那么你自己如果不确定的话，你可以就自己静下来，好好问自己你是怎么样感受的，你是不是想要像神一样，想要得到他的帮助啊？即使有一点点你这样的一种意愿，那么你都不是那种拒绝神的。
I think a lot of people, have trouble praying or talking to God or letting God in their life because they don't know how. They never learned how. No one told them how. No one talks about these things. So that's why I'm always talking about it and always trying to help people find ways to do it, because I think it's hard for a lot of people who it just wasn't part of their life. How you don't just wake up one day and start talking to God and praying every day, and you have to, it's a process, and everyone has their own way of doing it, and what's comfortable for them. And so if you don't know how to do that, that doesn't mean you're rejecting God.
对，你可能不知道怎么样去跟神交流，你只是不知道，嗯而已，你不能认为自己这样就是拒绝神，那么你可能并不一定还就是已经那个就是每天都祷告，因为这个原来不是你的成长的一部分，那就是从你。所以我就是要慢慢的教人怎么样去，学习跟神交流，然后发现你自己认为舒适的方式，慢慢的开始跟神交流。
I think there's, I guess 3 kinds of people who reject God, okay? One is they're just atheist, they hate God or they don't believe in God. They say it, they know it, nothing's going to change their mind. They have consciously rejected God. They don't want any part of God. That's one.
第一类拒绝神的人就是有意识的，非常的主动的、自觉的拒绝神，不想就是跟这个有分。
Those are not the people who are mad at God. Those people aren't really atheists. They just think they are.
对，那个他们不是就跟神就是不满意，而是他们就是有意识的就想跟神划清界限的。
Then there's the second group, and these are people who say they believe in God, who make believe they're religious, who go to church or talk about God, but deep in their heart, they don't really believe. They're just faking it. They just want to look, they think they'll look better if they act religious or spiritual, but they're not really. And those people do not live good luck. They might be watching pornography or molesting people or cheating on their wife. They're not good people. Everything with them, they're phonies.
呀，那第二种人呢，是那种伪君子的那种人，他们只声称他们信神的，也讲神的，但是他们只是装作而已，只是这样，他们比较的虔诚啊、灵性啊，是让他们表面上比较好看，实际上呢，他们往往比如说只看一些的，那个对，就是做色情的东西啊，或者是。性骚扰啦，或者是对太太不忠啦，就是他们就是活一个虚伪的生活，表里不一致的生活。
And then there's the third type, and those are the people who they haven't consciously rejected God. They're not big phonies making believe that they believe in God. They're just so caught up in their material life, in acquiring material things and worrying about this and trying to get money, or maybe they're a criminal and they're trying to rob people or whatever they're doing. They're so caught up in their existence that they just don't make any time for God or anything spiritual. And those people are, I would say, they're in trouble. They could go either way, because at any point they can see the light, but they better start looking, because the longer they go, the farther they get from God. So I'd say those people, they're not lost causes. There's at any point they can embrace, the truth, but they're slipping away.
嗯哼，对，那另外的第三种人呢，他也还不是有意识的拒绝神，他也不是那个第二类的伪君子，但是他们就是被物质生活那么完全的占据了，那么只想着挣钱呢，只想着攫取物质财富啦，或者被物质界的什么欲望是特别的占据吸引。他们只在乎物质生存方面的东西，没有时间给，或者根本就没有考虑神，和灵性的需要。那么他们这样待在这种状态越久，那他们离神就越远，就慢慢的就相当于滑走了。
So if you're not one of those three categories, you don't have to worry. If you're just someone who you feel like maybe you don't know God, but you want to know God, that's good enough. Wanting to know God is good enough.
如果你不是属于这三类当中的那一类，那么大概你不是那种的会拒绝虚存的。你只要有一念想要了解神更多一点，那么这就已经足够了。
Just keep coming here. We'll show you how. It's not hard. You'll get. He's just standing there waiting. He's just at the other side of the door. You just have to knock on it.
对，他就是只要比如说继续来参加学习了，那么我们慢慢的会讲更多，然后其实是不难的跟神交流，那么神就在门的另外一边等着你敲门，你就敲门就好了。
If you want to know God and you feel like you don't know God, you don't know how to know God, the best thing to do is to pray to God and ask him to help you get to know him.
对，如果你不了解神，你就是唯一也许能做的就是跟神祷告，就是想要了解他更多，这就足够了。
God always answers sincere prayers.
你真诚的祷告总是会得到聆听和答复的。
Maybe not as soon as you'd like or in the way that you would like, but he will answer it.
对，可能不一定是你那个期待的方式，但是他早晚都会回答。
Maybe that's why he sent you to this study group.
可能为什么他就把你就是让你看到参加这个读书会。
God works in mysterious ways.
神他的作为，他是非常的以神秘的方式来工作的。
So
Yeah,
how's that?
that's true. That's wonderful.
Yeah, but are we still awake? Did we hear it?
Well, we can always listen to the
Yeah.
recording. They are missing part of it due to, yeah, it's nice. We can, yeah, we complete one section. That's good. So
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
I
that was
end
a
recording?
heavy duty section.
Yeah, 这是
That
很重的职责的这么一部分，一个部分，对。
I mean, that was like, I would call it, chock full. Every sentence was chock full. Chock full of information, chock full of goodness.
他的每一句都是很重的，分量很重的，对，是的，That's true. We can
And I
end
tried to skip one sentence, but Team Ricky wouldn't let me.
我想把一句略过去，结果呢，
One
结
sentence
果不被允许。
in 39 weeks. I tried to skip one sentence and she caught me.
I have sharp eyes.
And you were
Don't allow
tired
you
too. She's like, "Oh, I'm so tired. What? That one sentence. Wait a minute.
See?
39 weeks.
Yeah, I don't want to get sleep away.
That was so funny.
Yeah, and Sunny is super behave so well, you know. He just squeezed behind me on my chair. So
Oh.
he's so sweet. He doesn't even meow a bit at all. Good team member. Good team
Good.
member.
Yes, he's a major team member.
Major. Yeah, yeah.
Your team might start growing
Yeah.
because, you know, mine.
Yeah, I put him outside the door and closed the door, and you know, he didn't meowing for a couple of hours until very late, and then I let him in, and still he didn't meow. He just stay quiet.
We should probably stop recording.
Yes.